Chapter 484 Attack of the Ancient Race, 2/. Chapter 484 Attack of the Ancient Race, 2/ After Li Muyi left, Hanju thought that Qiu Shilai would look for him, but he didn't. Hanju could feel that his relationship with Qiu Shilai had become quite peculiar. If Qiu Shilai no longer asked his disciples to join the Buddhist sect, it meant that their relationship had been ruined. He had to be careful of Qiu Shilai's schemes. There were thousands of sages. Although he had the protection of the Tao field, Hanju still had to be careful. Although Li Muyi had left, the Khanate lifeforms outside the 100-peak Immortal River did not leave. They seemed to recognize this place. Not only that, but the number of Khanate lifeforms was also increasing. 80 years later, Zhou Mingyue came to visit Hanju, followed by Han Zuetian. This was also Han Zuetian's first time coming to Hanju's Taoist temple. The master and disciple knelt in front of him, looking very nervous. Hanju remained silent and waited for them to speak. Zhou Mingyue asked carefully, "Grandmaster, what should we do with the Khanate lifeforms outside?" Hanju asked, "You want to take them in?" Han Zuetian looked up and said, "The 100-peak Immortal River is so big. Since those Khanate lifeforms are unwilling to leave, why don't you accept them? I heard from the other elders that as long as Khanate lifeforms survive, they will be mighty figures of the world in the future." Hanju stared at him, scaring him so much that he hurriedly lowered his head. Although the divine light of the sun and moon yin-yang protection covered Hanju's face, the oppressive gaze made Han Zuetian feel as if he was in a cold cave. Hanju suddenly realized that Han Zuetian was too ambitious. This ambition was inherent. He wondered if this was a good thing. Zhou Mingyue seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly said, "Grandmaster, don't worry. I'll only accept Zuetian. I definitely won't lead these Khanate lifeforms out to cause trouble." Han Zuetian promised, "That's right, Grandmaster. I'm only doing this for the hidden sect's sake. Although the hidden sect is strong, most people are busy cultivating in seclusion. The sect lacks people to manage the living beings outside. I'm the youngest and can help do these things." Hanju didn't suspect Han Zuetian's loyalty. After so many years, his favorability towards him had already reached 6 stars. Zhou Mingyue glared at Han Zuetian and scolded him. "What are you saying? If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks." Han Zuetian felt wronged and did not dare to reply. Zhou Mingyue was frightened. Why did these words sound so much like fighting for power? Although Hanju was good to his disciples, they had never doubted his methods. If Hanju really felt danger, he would definitely not show mercy. Hanju checked the living beings near the Tao field and didn't find Li Muyi. He directly used his divine sense to move the hundreds of thousands of Khanate lifeforms outside into the 100-peak Immortal River. "Go, they're already inside." Hanju closed his eyes after saying that. Zhou Mingyue and Han Zuetian were pleasantly surprised. They quickly thanked him and left. As soon as they entered the 100-peak Immortal River, the Khanate lifeforms all became restless, causing the place to fall into a commotion. However, not long after they quietened down. Tao Sovereign had made his move. Hanju didn't expect much from these Khanate lifeforms. If the 10,000 Nether race members could cultivate to the pseudo-sage realm, then the existence of Khanate lifeforms would not mean much. But there was one thing. Since they entered the 100-peak Immortal River, they could forget about leaving. Unless they cultivated to the pseudo-sage realm. After thousands of years of development, and with the various Providence sects preaching everywhere, more and more Khanate lifeforms appeared. Be it Khanate lifeforms or ferocious beasts, they all liked to rush towards the places with abundant spirit chi. In the 100-peak Immortal River, because of the Tao field, the surrounding spirit chi was also constantly increasing, causing more and more Khanate lifeforms to appear. Time passed quickly. Another 1,000 years passed. 2 lingers stepped into the deity realm. Tao Comprehension Sword, Chu Shuren, and Morong Qi also began to charge towards it. Zhao Xianyuan was getting closer and closer to the Zenith Heaven realm. There were already more than 1,000 Khanate lifeforms in the 100-peak Immortal River. Under Han Zuetian's management, a form of hierarchy began to form. On this day, A large number of organized Khanate life forms appeared outside the 100-peak Immortal River. They were mighty and shook the ground. A mighty giant appeared at the end of the horizon. In front of him, those huge Khanate life forms were like stones. He was taller than any mountain in the 100-peak Immortal River. It was the ancient race's leader, Ancient Fiendish Yin. After so many years, the ancient Fiendish Yin's ancient race had absorbed countless Khanate life forms and covered the various regions. Recently, Ancient Fiendish Yin had heard from his subordinates that there were many Khanate life forms in this area. He had led his subordinates here and was prepared to expand the ancient race. Ancient Fiendish Yin's gaze landed on the 100-peak Immortal River. The nearby Khanate life forms seemed to be isolated by an invisible force and could not advance. Many living beings were even stuck to the edge of the formation. At first glance, half of their bodies were in the air. It was extremely strange. Ancient Fiendish Yin suddenly leaped, stirring up a terrifying wind. Some weak Khanate life forms were directly overturned. Boom! The ancient Fiendish Yin collided with the Dao Field's formation and was forcefully blocked. His long hair fluttered, as if he was possessed by a ferocious beast. He began to punch the array formation with both fists, but unfortunately, he could not break through it. The hidden sect disciples walked out of their residences and looked at the terrifying figure in the sky. They looked at each other. Who is this? The Khanate life forms in the 100-peak Immortal River were all frightened and nervous. Hao Tian came out of Long Hao's body and said, "Ancient Fiendish Yin, I didn't expect him to come. It's probably because there are too many Khanate life forms around the 100-peak Immortal River that attracted him." His tone was filled with teasing, feeling that Ancient Fiendish Yin was courting death. The others did not think much of Ancient Fiendish Yin. Only the Khanate life forms under Han Zuetian were nervous. The Ancient Fiendish Yin looked too powerful. Just looking at its figure was enough to make them despair. What's there to panic about? This person is nothing in our hidden sect. The mighty figure of the hidden sect is busy cultivating and doesn't reveal his true body. Han Zuetian cursed. Looking at his subordinates trembling, he was furious. They were far inferior to the Nether race. That was 10,000 immortal emperor mighty figures. At this moment, boom! A sword chi suddenly shot out from the 100-peak Immortal River. It passed through the array formation and directly pierced through the ancient Fiendish Yin's head. Blood splattered like rain. The headless ancient Fiendish Yin hurriedly jumped away from the Dao field. How can this be? Ancient Fiendish Yin was shocked. Even a perfected pseudo-sage could not directly penetrate his body. Who was the other party? At this moment, a figure appeared in front of him. The blinding divine light made him squint his eyes. He instinctively waved his palm to prevent the other party from attacking him. It was Hanju. The heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial Dharma idol condensed above Hanju's head and punched out. Both fists collided. The ancient Fiendish Yin was directly exploded. His body turned into dust and scattered. His soul fled in fear. The heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial waved his fist again. Ancient Fiendish Yin's soul was directly obliterated. Almost instantly, Hanju disappeared and returned to the Taoist temple. The world fell silent. The Khanate life forms outside the 100-peak Immortal River were all dumbfounded. They looked up in disbelief as the blood mist continued to descend. Chapter 485 Fame Shaking the Immortal World. Hanju of the Mortal World. Chapter 485 Fame Shaking the Immortal World. Hanju of the Mortal World. Ancient Fiendish Yin has developed hatred towards you. Current hatred points. 5 stars. Hanju frowned when he saw this line of words. He was still alive. It seemed that this fellow also hid a soul elsewhere. But it's fine. Ancient Fiendish Yin being alive was not a threat. It was a good opportunity to intimidate the various factions. Most of the Khanate life forms of the ancient race had intelligence. They could communicate, so they would probably spread the news. Ever since Jiang Dugu, continuous people kept coming to barge into the Dao field. In the long run, what would happen? Hanju kept a low profile and cultivated, but he was not afraid of being discovered. Nothing would happen as long as he was in the Dao field. After thinking, Hanju closed his eyes. He wasn't in a hurry to curse ancient Fiendish Yin. Cursing now would easily expose him. He would curse the guy to death in a few thousand years. On the other side, Han Zuetian stood on the hill and said smugly, "Do you see? This is the hidden sect's power. You are not considered disciples yet. You need to cultivate well. You have already joined the strongest force in the world. However, if your cultivation is insufficient, you will not have the chance to return after being chased out." The transformed living beings at the foot of the mountain nodded excitedly. They didn't see Hanju appear. They only saw ancient fiendish Yin being sent flying. Then, a huge shadow flashed past and ancient fiendish Yin turned into a bloody mist and died on the spot. Compared to them, the hidden sect disciples were very calm, including the Nether race. Currently, they were all existences who pursued the great Tao. They weren't like ancient fiendish Yin, who had to enter the world to fight for power. The situation was different. In the following years, the news of ancient fiendish Yin's death quickly spread. It spread wider and wider. The severely injured ancient fiendish Yin couldn't condense a new body in a short period of time. He had offended too many powerful enemies, and did not even dare to show himself, causing the ancient race to be like scattered sand. The hidden sect, and the 100-peak immortal river's names began to spread. Many Khanate lifeforms in the 100-peak immortal river communicated with the Khanate lifeforms outside at the edge of the Tao field, causing the two names, 100-peak immortal river and hidden sect, to be known by the Khanate lifeforms outside. They spread it by word of mouth. 1 spread to 1, 2 to 10, and 10 to 10,000. The various Providence sects also knew of the 100-peak immortal river, and the hidden sect's existence. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. They had also seen the hidden sect during the Heavenly Race banquet. However, they did not expect that the hidden sect actually hid a powerful existence that could easily kill ancient fiendish Yin, 200 immortal emperors, and an almost invincible pseudo-sage below the sages. In the middle were supreme geniuses like Jiang Yi and Dao Sovereign in the previous calamity. This force, they were ridiculously strong. Most importantly, the various forces did not know the hidden sect's true background. 432 years later, the 100-peak immortal river welcomed visitors. "I'm the sect master of the Jie school Jing Tiangong. I'm especially here to visit the sect master of the hidden sect. Can I meet you?" Jing Tiangong's voice entered the Tao field, causing Hanju to open his eyes. He naturally wouldn't kill this believer directly, but he couldn't see him either. The three schools of the Tao sect had a sensitive relationship. They were united to the outside world, but they had always been fighting internally. Once they formed a good relationship with someone, they would definitely offend the other two schools. The Heavenly Court wanted to form the entire Tao sect, but it collapsed. Hanju said, "Forget about meeting. Jie school sect master. Our hidden sect doesn't want to fight for power, and has no intention of becoming friends with the various factions. We only want to cultivate." Hearing this, Jing Tiangong couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. The disciples accompanying him were all angry. In their ears, Hanju didn't give them face. However, they did not shout. After all, Jing Tiangong was here. With the sect master around, it was not their turn to speak. Jing Tiangong smiled and asked, "Then can fellow Taoists tell me your name?" "Hanju, a nobody." "Hanju." Jing Tiangong narrowed his eyes and pinched his fingers to deduce. "Huh." Jing Tiangong seemed to have guessed something. He revealed a strange smile and said, "Fellow Taoist Han, if you pass by the Jie school in the future, remember to visit me. You don't want to be disturbed, but I like to be disturbed the most." With that said, Jing Tiangong turned around and left. The Jie school disciples followed closely behind. On the other side, Hanju walked out of the Taoist temple, disturbed by Jing Tiangong. He wasn't in the mood to cultivate and wanted to take a walk. He suddenly thought of the Qilin egg in the cave. After thousands of years, not many Qilin eggs had hatched. Only a dozen or so. The other Qilin eggs were still being nurtured. Arriving at the cave, Hanju appeared in front of the reincarnation avatar, Liu Bei. Liu Bei opened his eyes and hurriedly stood up to bow when he saw him. Hanju looked at a sleeping Qilin in the tunnel. This Qilin was as big as an elephant and wore crimson scales. As it breathed, its nose emitted a scorching aura. His potential is not bad. He has already reached the Grand Unity True Immortal Realm. Hanju praised. He looked into the cave and saw the figures of other Qilin, but their cultivation was far inferior to this crimson Qilin. Liu Bei smiled. Its potential is indeed not bad. It can be considered the king of the Qilin race. The other Qilins are all very afraid of it. Perhaps it's the Qilin race's royal bloodline. By the way, its name is Su Lin. Would it be offensive for me to give it a name? If you're not satisfied, you can give it a new name. Hanju said, It's fine. There's no need to change it. Send it to my Taoist temple when it reaches the Grand Unity Golden Immortal Realm. With that, Hanju disappeared. Liu Bei heaved a sigh of relief. He was actually just testing it. Hanju's nonchalance was actually permission. He was grateful to him. He knew that Hanju wanted him to control the Qilin race and increase his authority in the hidden sect. Of course, he couldn't forget that the true master of the Qilin race was Hanju. Immortal world in the seas. There was still remnant negative karma of the immeasurable calamity. It floated on the sea like a black mist. On an island, Jing Tiangong and Huang Zuantian stood at the top of the mountain and looked into the distance. Do you know Hanju? Jing Tiangong pretended to ask casually. Worry. Huang Zuantian thought for a moment and said, It sounds familiar. Let me think. I've met more than 10 people called Hanju in my life. The ones who left the deepest impression should be the Hanju of the Eastern Dragon region and the Hanju of the mortal world. Oh, tell me. Hanju of the Eastern Dragon region is a hidden cultivator who doesn't belong to any sect. I don't know if he's still alive. Hanju of the mortal world is an ascetic I encountered when I was a mortal. I suffered greatly in his hands. Huang Zuantian shook his head and laughed as he recalled the past. Jing Tiangong asked, How's your relationship with Hanju from the mortal world? Are you enemies? Huang Zuantian said, There are indeed grudges, but there are differences between mortals and immortals. The past is like smoke and mist, not worth mentioning. He asked in surprise, Sect Master, why are you asking about him? Did you encounter him? No way, he's still alive after the calamity. Jing Tiangong stared at him and smiled. Nothing. I'm just asking. A mighty figure named Hanju recently appeared in the immortal world. Oh, tell me the details. Huang Zuantian pretended to be curious. Jing Tiangong told him about the hidden sect. Huang Zuantian sighed. I didn't expect the hidden sect's master to also be called Hanju. Wait, could it be that Hanju of our mortal world? He began to deduce with his fingers and frowned. I can't deduce it. As expected of a mighty figure. Chapter 486 Strange Palm, 20,000 years old. Chapter 486 Strange Palm, 20,000 years old. Another 1,000 years passed since Jing Tiangong left. While cultivating, Hanju cursed Sage Fated Secrets and checked his emails. The content of the emails was still mostly about various opportunities. He was bored. It had been a long time since he was attacked. Hanju was really not used to it. It seemed that the immortal world would be peaceful for a long time. Hanju felt that it was good. It gave them time to develop. The cultivation levels of the hidden sect disciples continued to increase. No one stopped advancing. It had to be said that the great Tao of extreme origin was all-encompassing. It was really wonderful. All the disciples could obtain enlightenment from it. Hanju realized that after reaching the great Tao level, potential was actually not that important. What was more important was aptitude and comprehension. On this day, Tao Comprehension Sword came to visit him. She was already a rank 9 immortal emperor, and was only a step away from the deity realm. She hoped that he could help her. Hanju began to preach the Tao for her alone, focusing on the deity realm. 20 years later, Tao Comprehension Sword left with much comprehension. 139 years later, Tao Comprehension Sword successfully reached the one mystic divine origin. More and more deity realm experts appeared in the hidden sect. The entire sect was flourishing. The Khanate life forms at the bottom also began to focus on cultivation. The number of Khanate life forms around the 100-peak immortal river continued to increase. However, ever since ancient fiendish Een had suffered a setback here, no powerful enemies tried to barge in. Boom! Near the 100-peak immortal river, the ground shook, startling many Khanate life forms and ferocious beasts. Giant fingers broke out from the ground. Soon the entire palm stood on the ground. It was even larger than a mountain. Its fingertips reached into the clouds. This palm was covered in blood. It was dense and ghastly, and the fingers seemed extremely stiff. Under the fusang tree, Jiangyi looked at the palm and frowned. He muttered, "I think I've seen that hand somewhere before." The black hell chicken said calmly, "Didn't limbs fall from the sky thousands of years ago? It's probably a mighty figure plotting. However, we don't have to worry as long as it doesn't appear in the 100-Peak Immortal River." If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. Jiangyi glanced at it and pretended to be cold. All the living beings in the 100-Peak Immortal River were discussing the palm. Inside the Taoist temple, Hanju had a strange expression. This palm, Zutu's hand, their auras were identical, but even more sinister. Could it be that after Zutu died, his body was taken away by a sage? Zutu was the strongest person in the early stages of the calamity. He had even died because of Hanju. Now that his palm appeared near the Dao field, Hanju was inexplicably nervous. "I want to know, why did this palm appear near the Dao field?" Hanju thought silently. 2 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Emperor Zhao's doing, Hanju frowned. It was really him. The person who had scattered the limbs around the immortal world was Emperor Zhao. This person was one of the devil race's ancestors. He had the devil ancestors' support, and was full of ambition. Emperor Zhao noticed Hanju because they looked at each other. Hanju had a feeling that the devils would definitely appear in the next immeasurable calamity and make a comeback. Hanju thought for a moment and decided to ignore it. It was just nice for the palm to drive the surrounding living beings away and return peace to the 100-Peak Immortal River. Even if Emperor Zhao came personally, he would still not be able to break through the Dao field's defense. Zutu's palm absorbed endless negative karma and grudges. The aura of misfortune it emitted made the living beings uneasy. In a few years, some living beings couldn't take it anymore and fled. This was what Hanju wanted. He extended his divine sense and swept across several regions. He discovered that it was not only the 100-Peak Immortal River. The limbs of the previous calamity were everywhere. They occupied places with abundant spirit qi and dispersed the Khanate life forms. Hanju finally understood. So Emperor Zhao wanted to restrict the development of Khanate life forms. Since it wasn't only against Hanju, he didn't have to care. Just like that, another 700 years passed. A large number of cultivators appeared outside the 100-Peak Immortal River. These cultivators rushed towards Zutu's palm and set up array formations around it. This scene attracted the attention of the hidden sect disciples. Jie school disciple. Long Hao recognized the Taoist robes the disciples were wearing and clicked his tongue in wonder. The sect master of the Jie school had been here before. Why were there so many disciples this time? What did he want? The others also stared at the Jie school disciples. Hanju was also watching from the Taoist temple. Several days later, the Jie school disciples surrounded Zutu's palm and began to activate the array formation. Arrays rose. Golden chains wrapped around the palm, black flames burned, and strange red qi seeped into it. Thousands of Jie school disciples kept casting spells. A golden wheel appeared in the sky. It seemed to be formed by dozens of golden rings. Mysterious words flickered vaguely, looking magnificent. The palm trembled violently, as if it was struggling. Boom! A strange force suddenly erupted and swept across Jie school disciples. Immediately after, the disciples in the front row were petrified and turned into dust. This scene frightened the other disciples. Zutu's palm suddenly clenched into a fist, causing a strong wind to sweep in all directions and to shatter all the surrounding array formations. The other disciples seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. They fell and crashed into the mountains and rivers, drying up at a speed visible to the naked eye, and turning into dried corpses as their bodies trembled. They wanted to make a sound, but they could not. In the end, they all died. The world fell silent. The hidden sect disciples were stunned. This palm was so powerful. Even Tao's sovereign, a zenith heaven golden immortal, could not help but frown. Hanju could tell that this palm already had a power close to a pseudo-sage. The strongest among these disciples was only an immortal emperor. How could they subdue it? Why did Jing Tiangong let them come to die? Hanju couldn't figure it out. Little did they know that it was not Jing Tiangong who wanted them to die. The entire Jie school was subduing the remnant body parts everywhere. This batch of disciples had their own thoughts, so they rushed over. After the Jie school disciples perished, Zhu Tu's palm slowly released. From high up in the sky, it was as if a giant was buried alive. This battle frightened the hidden sect disciples, but since Hanju didn't say anything, they were not worried. However, they felt uneasy every time they saw Zhu Tu's palm. Time passed. 30 years later, detected that you are 20,000 years old. You have the following choices. 1. Come out immediately and clean up the remains of the calamity. You can obtain immeasurable merit, a great Tao fragment, and a heavenly Tao spirit stone. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner, and not be affected by karma in the world. You can obtain a great Tao fragment, and a heavenly Tao spirit stone. Hanju suddenly opened his eyes. It's back! It's here! Heavenly Tao spirit stone. As expected of an achievement reward of 20,000 years, the Book of Misfortune could be upgraded. Hanju thought happily. He seemed to see Sage Fated Secret's death already. He chose the second option without hesitation. The Book of Misfortune was already a Zenith Heaven Supreme Treasure. If its level rose again, it would definitely be a major one. Hanju immediately took out the Book of Misfortune and the Heavenly Tao Spirit Stone and started to fuse them. He wondered if the Dharma treasure would be pseudo-sage level. If not, it would directly become a Heavenly Tao Dharma treasure. The power of the curse. Hanju didn't dare to think too deeply. Chapter 487 Late Stage Pseudo-Sage, Primordial Purple Qi. Chapter 487 Late Stage Pseudo-Sage, Primordial Purple Qi. The Book of Misfortune's upgrade took 30 years, but at this point, 30 years was nothing. Book of Misfortune upgraded from a Zenith Heaven Supreme Treasure to a Heavenly Tao Numinous Treasure. There was no pseudo-sage level. It was directly at the Heavenly Tao level. Hanju was in a good mood. He did not curse Sage Fated Secrets immediately, but continued cultivating. He wasn't far from breaking through. He had to cultivate to the late-stage pseudo-sage realm first. More than 6,000 years had passed since the last breakthrough. Hanju turned around and felt that time passed so quickly, as if it was yesterday. The early-stage Heavenly Tao had no grudges or conflicts. The definition of time was not obvious. All living beings were busy cultivating, although various providence sects were wandering the immortal world. The world was vast. It wasn't difficult for them to hide and cultivate. On the other side, outside the 33rd heaven, in the palace, Sage Fated Secrets suddenly felt uneasy. For some reason, he felt like a calamity was coming. This feeling had not appeared since he had attained the Tao. He immediately thought of the Dark Forbidden Lord. In the past few decades, the Dark Forbidden Lord had not cursed him. Was he preparing something? The more Sage Fated Secrets thought about it, the more panicked he became. He also thought that the other sages had been interacting closely recently and seemed to be alienating him. No, I have to rope in an ally. Qiushilai is not reliable. Sage Fated Secret's eyes flickered. He immediately stood up and left. 300 years later. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. Hanju finally had a chance to break through. He directly entered seclusion. In 50 years, he successfully broke through. Feeling, Hanju checked his attributes panel. Name: Hanju. Lifespan: 20,380/6 sextillion 790 quintillion 9 quadrillion 999 trillion 999 billion 999 million 999,999. Race: Primordial Fiend Celestial, Immeasurable Emperor. Cultivation: Late stage of the pseudo-primordial chaos Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm. Technique: Primordial Chaos Reincarnation Great Tao, Heavenly Cycle Body Tempering, Great Tao of Life and Death, Great Tao of Karma, Great Tao of Extreme Origin. Great. His lifespan doubled again. Hanju was getting closer and closer to becoming a sage. He continued to consolidate his cultivation. After consolidating his cultivation, he would deal with sage-fated secrets. 49 years later, Hanju finished consolidating his cultivation. He was about to take out the Book of Misfortune when he felt a powerful aura. Extending his divine sense, he saw a sword chi sweep over from the end of the horizon. It collided with Zhu Tu's palm and cut it into two. Blood splattered across the ground. The two halves of the palm trembled violently and wanted to heal. Another sword chi interwove and shattered the palm. Hanju raised his eyebrows. What a powerful sword chi! The other party was at least a pseudo-sage. Furthermore, this sword chi looked familiar. Hanju looked over and saw a white-robed swordsman flying over on sword chi. Isn't this Li Daokong? Li Daokong stopped in front of Zhu Tu's palm and looked down at the mountain of meat. He frowned. This murderous aura is essentially demonic chi. Could it be that the devil ancestor is plotting something? Li Daokong thought silently. His gaze landed on the 100-peak immortal river. He had long heard of it. This time, he was not here for Zhu Tu's palm, but for the 100-peak immortal river. Flying forward, he raised his hand to touch an invisible formation. He secretly activated his dermic powers and felt that his dermic powers were blocked by an extremely strong force, then directly melted. What a powerful formation! Li Daokong raised his eyebrows and asked, Sect Master of the Hidden Sect, I'm the eldest disciple of the human school Li Daokong. I'm here to ask about cultivation. He had long heard of the Hidden Sect. The Heavenly Emperor of the Heavenly Court was a disciple of the Hidden Sect. Hanju's voice floated over slowly. Fellow Taoist Li, you're so powerful. I'm not your match. Forget it. He asked silently. Was Li Daokong arranged to be here by a sage? 2 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. It's not a sage's arrangement. He's just curious about you. Curious? Hanju was speechless. Does this fellow still want to take me in as his disciple? Hanju, aren't you letting me in? Are you worried that I'll attack you? Li Daokong never ambush or scheme. Li Daokong's voice floated over. Hanju continued to ask in his mind. If Li Daokong comes in, will I be in danger? No, this time, his lifespan was not deducted. Perhaps the system had already checked Li Daokong's motives. Hanju asked, Is Li Daokong loyal to the human school? 2 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Although he is loyal, he is not a fanatic. Hanju narrowed his eyes and felt that it was feasible. The human school structure was complicated. There were only 2 disciples on the surface, but there were countless disciples in the dark. Jiang Dugu and Li Daokong were both from the human school, but they were already mortal enemies. Li Daokong would definitely be dissatisfied. Hanju said, Come in. He directly wrapped him with his divine sense. Li Daokong did not resist, and was sucked into the Taoist temple. After landing, Li Daokong's gaze landed on Hanju. You've actually reached the pseudo-sage realm. Li Daokong said with a burning gaze, his heart filled with shock. This talent was too terrifying. When he first met Hanju, Li Daokong only felt that he was a prodigy. After 10,000 years, this prodigy actually surpassed him. Li Daokong knew his potential very well. His breakthrough speed was already the fastest in the calamity, but compared to Hanju, he thought of what Li Muyi had told him, and seemed to understand something. Hanju smiled and said, If you had been cultivating in seclusion, you would have long become a sage. He waved his hand, causing a mat to appear on the ground. He then gestured for Li Daokong to sit down. After Li Daokong sat down, he smiled and said, It's not that easy to attain the Tao. You need great providence. However, I've already obtained enough providence in the previous calamity. I'm only lacking the primordial purple chi. Hanju asked, Is there a heavenly Tao sage in the human school now? Li Daokong said, Yes, but my master created his own little heavenly Tao. It's not inferior to the heavenly Tao of the immortal world. Doesn't that mean that the human school also has a primordial purple chi? Hanju only knew of 8 heavenly Tao sages. Nuwa Fuxishan, South Extreme Heavenly Venerate, Qiu Shilai, Sect Master Tianju, Sage Fated Secrets, Sage Jinan and Emperor Shao. Not to mention that Nuwa had perished, a heavenly Tao sage had yet to appear. He guessed that he was hiding in the human school. Li Daokong said, "That's right. If there are no accidents, I will be the next heavenly Dao sage. Do you want to acknowledge me as your master?" Hanju asked, "Is it the position of Sage Nuwa or the human school?" "It's naturally Empress Nuwa's position." "Oh." Hanju relaxed. "So this fellow was also deceived by a sage?" Hanju said in surprise. "Sage Li Mui said that he wanted to give me the primordial purple qi. Why did he also promise it you?" Li Daokong frowned. Hanju continued, "Not only Li Mui, but also Sage Qiu Shilai. He also said that he wanted to give me Nuwa's primordial purple qi, and let me fight for providence and fame first. How many primordial purple qi does Nuwa have?" Li Daokong snorted. "It seems that you and I are both pawns. I'm afraid you and I aren't the only ones. Actually, I came to find you for another goal. I want to create a new human school." Chapter 488 Li Daokong's Ambition. Help from a Sage. Chapter 488 Li Daokong's Ambition. Help from a sage new human school? This fellow wants to stab Li Mui in the back? Hanju frowned, and didn't agree immediately. If Li Daokong really thought that, Li Mui would definitely sense it. Sages were high and mighty and knew everything, seeing through his thoughts. Li Daokong said, "Don't worry. I have a heavenly Dao supreme treasure on me. Sages can't capture my actions or spy on me." Hanju shook his head. "If that's the case, shouldn't Li Mui be more afraid of you?" Li Daokong said calmly. "That's right, so he trusts Jiang Dugu more." Hanju remained silent. Li Daokong continued to talk about his relationship with Jiang Dugu. Jiang Dugu was the human school's previous eldest disciple. He had become Li Mui's disciple, and was equivalent to his senior. However, Li Daokong was Li Mui's adopted disciple. Jiang Dugu had joined Li Mui at his peak. Jiang Dugu had an extremely high status in the human race. Because of him, the human school's status in the human race had increased greatly, so he was trusted by Li Mui. In the previous immeasurable calamity, Li Daokong had followed Li Mui's orders to assist the heavenly court. Unexpectedly, the heavenly court had suddenly risen. Their opponents had died one after another, and even threatened the sage's lineage. Li Mui had Li Daokong and Jiang Dugu retreat. Li Daokong did not agree. He had already promised to help the heavenly court. How could he go back on his word? Moreover, in his opinion, it was good if the heavenly court won. They could end the calamity as soon as possible. Thus, he offended Li Mui, and Jiang Dugu also appeared out of thin air and entered the calamity. After that, because the two of them were on their own, they often fought. They were furious, and now, it had even become a death grudge. Expressionless, Hanju laughed in his heart. In that case, the estrangement between Li Daokong and Li Mui was due to him. The Dark Forbidden Lord? Li Daokong looked at him with a burning gaze and said, "Are you willing to join me? I can make you the vice sect master." Hanju said helplessly, "How many disciples do you have?" "Not many, we can continue recruiting." "When can you recruit to the size of our hidden sect?" 2. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. 11 Li Daokong fell silent. He couldn't help but scan with his divine sense, and discovered that there were actually more than 10,000 immortal emperors in the hidden sect. There were also several zenith heavens. This force? Impossible. Li Daokong was shocked. Hanju said, "Why don't you join my hidden sect?" In any case, Hanju still admired Li Daokong. In the previous calamity, other than sages, Li Daokong was the most prominent. His reputation as the #1 sword immortal in the heavenly Dao had long fallen on him. Most importantly, Li Daokong's breakthrough speed had always been very fast. Li Daokong narrowed his eyes and said, "Aren't you afraid of offending a sage? If I create a new human school with you, won't I also offend a sage? Besides, are you really confident in creating and controlling a providence sect?" Hanju asked bluntly. In his impression, Li Daokong had always been fighting alone, and occasionally brought his junior Li Xianao along. Li Daokong fell silent again. He indeed did not have any experience in this area. The reason why he wanted to create a new sect was that he wanted to go against Li Mui. Hanju sighed secretly. It was indeed impossible to subdue Li Daokong so easily. How about we spar? Li Daokong looked up and asked. Hanju thought for a moment, and felt that he couldn't hide anymore. He said, I have a mystical power that can let us fight in an illusion. In the illusion, you can unleash your full strength. Interested, Li Daokong nodded in agreement. Hanju pulled him into the simulation trial and started fighting. To prevent Li Daokong from thinking there was something wrong with the simulation trial, Hanju first adopted a defensive strategy and let him attack. After Li Daokong used his full strength, he would defeat him with one move. That's right. Instant kill. The late-stage pseudo-sage Hanju was able to insta-kill all existences under the sages. Even the world-shattering Li Daokong was insta-killed. Several days later, Li Daokong left the 100-peak Immortal River. His expression was dark and his back was desolate. Under the Fusang tree, Jiangyi asked curiously, he seems very unhappy. Did he fall out with Sect Master? The Black Hell Chicken said, needless to say, he must have been taught a lesson in the simulation trial. Jiangyi was silent. He would indeed be very unhappy. Back then, he had spent a lot of time to walk out of the shadows. After Li Daokong left, Hanju began to improve his sword Dao mystical power. He used a few months to reach his limits. After that, he began to comprehend the grand unity aspect. In 20 years, Hanju had cultivated 12 Fiend Celestial Dharma idols. They were the 9 Yang Fiend Celestial, the Earth Fiend Celestial, the Origin Gold Fiend Celestial, the Ultimate Bone Fiend Celestial, the Thousand-Headed Fiend Celestial, the Falling Space Fiend Celestial, the Cave Eye Fiend Celestial, the Red Evil Fiend Celestial, West Day Fiend Celestial, the Great Dharma Fiend Celestial, Trapped Nightmare Fiend Celestial, and Thought-Severing Fiend Celestial. Hanju had already accumulated 35 Fiend Celestial Dharma idols, and was walking further and further on the path of invincibility. After that, he began the simulation trial. Everyone below the sages were insta-killed. He was still killed when he challenged a sage, but he lasted longer. Hanju felt bored. He seemed to have become stronger, but also not. Hanju decided to set a goal for himself. He wanted to defeat a heavenly Dao sage before attaining the Dao. If he couldn't even do this, how could he challenge all the heavenly Dao sages alone after he attained the Dao? Hanju adjusted his emotions and took out the Book of Misfortune. He smiled. As his dermic powers were injected into the Book of Misfortune, a black light emitted and shone on Hanju's face, making him look extremely evil and terrifying. 5 days later, Hanju began to curse with his lifespan. His lifespan decreased extremely quickly, as expected of a heavenly Dao numinous treasure. If it were an ordinary cultivator, they might be drained dry in a second. On the other side, Sage Fated Secrets sensed the Dark Forbidden Lord's curse, and immediately circulated his energy to resist. He had a feeling that this curse was stronger than before. At this moment, he was in Emperor Zhao's Dao field. Emperor Xiao frowned when he saw Sage Fated Secrets circulating his energy. He asked, the Dark Forbidden Lord has begun? Sage Fated Secrets nodded. Emperor Xiao pinched his fingers to deduce, but couldn't track the source of the curse on Sage Fated Secrets. I knew it. This Dark Forbidden Lord is really a sage. Emperor Zhao's expression darkened. A sage who wanted to destroy other sages was extremely dangerous. Even if Emperor Xiao had ulterior motives, he did not want to be secretly targeted by other sages. Look at Sage Fated Secrets. He had even developed a mental demon. After a while, black qi began to surround Sage Fated Secrets. This was the manifestation of the curse. Emperor Xiao sensed with his divine sense, and was secretly shocked. Could it be that the other party had sacrificed a world? The curse was too powerful. Sage Fated Secrets took out a golden bell, and covered himself. However, the curse power directly penetrated the golden bell, and attacked his body and soul. Oh no! Sage Fated Secrets cursed silently. This curse power had increased too quickly. This time, it was probably not as simple as a mental demon. He opened his eyes and said, Emperor, help me. Emperor Xiao immediately appeared behind him. His right palm landed on his shoulder, and he used his great dermic powers to help Sage Fated Secrets resist the curse. In the Taoist temple, covered in a black aura, Hanju cursed as he stared at the attributes panel. 10 trillion years. 15 trillion years. 20 trillion years. Because of your curse, your enemy Sage Fated Secrets has developed mental demons. Fortunately, with the help of a sage, he suppressed these mental demons. Chapter 489 Mad Sage, Emergence of the Human Race. Chapter 489 Mad Sage, Emergence of the Human Race. Sage Fated Secrets had asked another sage for help? Hanju frowned. He didn't stop and continued cursing. His lifespan decreased rapidly. 25 trillion years. 30 trillion years. 40 trillion years. Hanju couldn't take it anymore. This was too much. Two sages combined were indeed terrifying. They were like iron walls that blocked the power of curses. At this moment, because of your curse, your enemy Sage Fated Secrets suffered from chi deviation and became a mad sage. Mad sage. Hanju immediately stopped. He let out a long sigh. His entire body felt comfortable, as if he had finally gotten what he wanted. This outcome was also good. Hanju didn't feel that he could curse a sage to death in one go. But Sage Fated Secrets had already become a mad sage. It meant that his death was not far away. Hanju put down the Book of Misfortune and got up to preach the Tao to the disciples. 13th Heaven, Heavenly Race Palace. Fang Liang came to visit Ji Xianxian. Ji Xianxian's expression was solemn. The 33rd heaven is in chaos. Stunned, Fang Liang asked, "What do you mean? A sage has gone mad." "What?" "It's said that he went mad from the dark forbidden lord's curses." If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Fang Liang widened his eyes. He was naturally not unfamiliar with the dark forbidden lord. He didn't expect that the dark forbidden lord would still be alive after the immeasurable calamity. Not only that, but he also cursed a sage. How impudent. Most importantly, the dark forbidden lord had succeeded. Fang Liang frowned and asked, "What does this have to do with us?" Ji Xianxian said, "When the sages are in chaos, their attention will shift. In addition, what do you think of the dark forbidden lord? It's said that in the previous calamity, the dark forbidden lord helped the heavenly court." Fang Liang smiled bitterly. "In the rumors, don't you know what happened to the heavenly court in the end?" Ji Xianxian frowned. The appearance of the dark forbidden lord made him feel very uneasy. According to his past experiences, whoever was the strongest would be targeted by the dark forbidden lord. Wasn't the current immortal world ruled by the heavenly race? Don't worry. The dark forbidden lord no longer appears. Even if he really wants to target us, even sages can't do anything. Aren't we still waiting for death? Fang Liang spread his hands. He had also become quite chill recently. He did not fight or snatch. Instead, he was relaxed. The current heavenly court immortals were already decorations. Instead, the heavenly race immortals were preaching and establishing faith. They were full of ambition. Seeing Ji Xianxian so diligent, he couldn't help but think of his past. Those bound by karma were surrounded in dense fog unknowingly. Ji Xianxian shook his head and laughed. "Let's not talk about this. I came to you mainly for another matter. The human race has appeared again. The heavenly court can rope them in. In the future, we can borrow the human race's power." Fang Liang frowned and asked, "Why would the humans appear?" "It's Li Daokong. Before the calamity ended, he moved a portion of the humans away. Now that he has been released for 2,000 years, the population is reproducing very quickly. If we let it be, the ancient race might not be able to suppress them. Taking advantage of the fact that the humans are leaderless and weak, the heavenly court can take advantage of them easily." "Where's Li Daokong?" "Him. Do you think he will become the human race's leader?" Ji Xianxian said suspiciously, feeling that Fang Liang was too cautious. Fang Liang thought about it carefully. Li Daokong was indeed not that kind of person. He despised the humans to begin with. The reason why he protected them was probably because of the human school's foundation. "All right, I'll try." Fang Liang consented, but he felt inexplicably uneasy. After the 100 years of lecture, the hidden sect disciples obtained many benefits. Other than the Khanate life forms, all the disciples and the Nether race had already successfully stepped onto the path of cultivating the great Tao of extreme origin. This great Tao was much stronger than their cultivation techniques. Everyone's cultivation speed increased greatly. The Khanate lifeform's foundation was weak. They had yet to reach the point of comprehending the great Tao of extreme origin. It was worth mentioning that Hanju felt a force summoning him from afar. Great Tao of extreme origin. Could it be that when he created the great Tao of extreme origin, it had also appeared in a mysterious space? Hanju asked the system, but it couldn't answer because the great Tao itself exceeded the system's current limit. This dog system had already created the great Tao, but it had yet to reach the limits of the great Tao? Hanju had no choice but to put this matter aside. After returning to the Taoist temple, he focused on the world of stars. After more than 10,000 years, the reroll world was no longer the same as before. It had more than 10 immortal emperors now, and they each dominated a region of the world. The reroll world was surrounded by nebulous primordial chi. The immortal emperors wanted to fly out, but were directly blocked, causing the world to be completely sealed. The white-robed Buddha was still the supreme existence, like a sage of the immortal world. In addition, a star not far from the reroll world began to transform. It began to have mountains and rivers, wind and fire. It even began to produce spirit chi. If this continued, that star would become suitable for living beings to live on. Not bad. Not bad. Hanju was very satisfied with the development of the world of stars. Sooner or later, it would become a heavenly Tao. He shifted his gaze to the fiend celestial chi. In the 100 years since the lecture, he had condensed 12 fiend celestial chi again. The fiend celestial chi was still condensing. It was unknown when it would truly condense into a chaotic fiend celestial. Hanju felt that he was missing something. Perhaps when he became a sage, the fiend celestial chi would truly undergo a qualitative change. After observing himself, Hanju started cultivating. The strange deity returned to the Taoist temple and started to rub against him. Although its intelligence had stopped growing, its strength had been increasing. It seemed that it could constantly become stronger without cultivating. Hanju guessed that it might be because he had fused with the strange deity that he had affected it. This was also a good thing. The strange deity was one of Hanju's trump cards. It could kill enemies invisible in the future. Before long, someone asked to see Hanju. The other disciples were still in the Tao comprehension state and didn't wake up. If this person could wake up so early, he probably had the intention to visit him. Come in. The door to the Taoist temple opened and Zhou Fan walked in. He knelt down in front of him and cupped his fists. Master, I have a request. Hanju asked, what is it? Zhou Fan stated his intention. 2,000 years ago, he sensed that the human race had reappeared. At first he did not care, but recently, the human race seemed to have seen a calamity and was summoning him. He wanted to help them. After all, he was once a human. Hanju pinched his fingers to deduce. Through karma, he deduced that there were indeed humans in the immortal world, and it was not small a number. There were already more than 1 million people. The human race was very far from the 100-peak immortal river. Hanju continued to deduce. I see. The humans were being persecuted by the ancient race. They raised the humans as food, and wanted to devour the heavenly Tao race's providence. When the humans were in despair, they used a secret technique to summon experts with human bloodlines. Hanju was also a human. Because of ancient fiendish Yin, he hated the ancient race. In that case, go, Hanju said calmly. Zhou Fan was pleasantly surprised. He hurriedly thanked him and left. After Zhou Fan left, Hanju locked the strange deity into the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus. Then, he took out the Book of Misfortune and prepared to curse ancient fiendish Yin. It was time to settle the scores. Chapter 490 Ancient Race Divides Chaos of the Sages. Chapter 490 Ancient Race Divides Chaos of the Sages. Hanju even cursed sages. Cursing ancient fiendish Yin was naturally nothing difficult. Ancient fiendish Yin had been recuperating ever since he had been severely injured in the 100-peak immortal river. The living beings of the ancient race had thought that he had already perished. Now the ancient race was in pieces and all sorts of kings had risen. The immortal world had also fallen into chaos. Cursing ancient fiendish Yin only consumed 1 trillion years of his lifespan. Because of your curse, Your enemy ancient fiendish Yin suffered from mental demons. His dermic power surged and his Dao fruit shattered. He died and his Dao dissipated. He was cursed to death. Unlike other opponents in the past who Hanju could only curse to death after many years, ancient fiendish Yin was directly cursed to death by him in one go. One-shot kill. Hanju wasn't happy at all. Instead, he was a little melancholic. As he became stronger, he could no longer return to the life of having a curse mission that happened once every 10 years. Hanju put down the Book of Misfortune and released the strange deity. Letting it move freely, he entered a cultivation state. Outside the 33rd heaven, Great Ultimate Hall, Li Muyi Fuxition, South Extreme Heavenly Venerate, Qiu Shilai, Sect Master Tianju, Sage Jinan, and Emperor Shao knelt in the hall. Ancestor Shitian sat in front of them expressionlessly. The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate looked up and said, "Ancestor, what do you think about this?" The other sages also stared at him. Ancestor Shitian said indifferently, "I've already said that I won't interfere in the matters of the Heavenly Tao. Sage Fated Secrets has already gone mad. This is no longer a matter of the Heavenly Tao," Qiu Shilai added. Sage Fated Secrets was the strongest Heavenly Tao sage previously. He had already gone mad. How could the other sages remain calm? In any case, he was panicking. Sage Jinan added, "Sage Fated Secrets has grasped the Tao destruction mystical power. If he goes mad and uses this mystical power, the Heavenly Tao that has just experienced the calamity will become extremely weak. It might even welcome the great Tao immeasurable calamity. Ancestor, you are also from our Heavenly Tao. Are you really willing to watch as the Heavenly Tao is destroyed?" The other sages nodded and revealed worried expressions. If Sage Fated Secrets used the Tao destruction mystical power, their lineage would be finished. Fortunately, Sage Fated Secrets had gone mad and had already forgotten how to use the Tao destruction mystical power. He could only rely on his instincts to wreak havoc everywhere. Ancestor Shitian slowly said, "Although you are sages, don't underestimate the Heavenly Tao. The Heavenly Tao needs you, but you are not necessary. As for Sage Fated Secrets, everything is karma. I won't interfere, even if he uses the Tao destruction mystical power. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. As for the karma between me and the Heavenly Tao, it has long been repaid. In the long years, have you forgotten how many Tao lessons I have given you?" Hearing this, the sages' expressions turned ugly and they were speechless. Ancestor Shitian said meaningfully, "You always want to escape the control of the Tao Ancestor, but when you encounter trouble, you always look forward to the help of stronger people. Do you know that the Tao Ancestor completely relied on himself in the past?" The sages were ashamed and did not dare to ask for more. After a long while, the sages left the Great Ultimate Hall and came to another palace. This was Li Muyi's Tao field. Sect Master Tianju asked, "Since Ancestor is unwilling to help, we have to rely on ourselves." Fuxition frowned. "Compared to Sage Fated Secrets, we have to find out who the Dark Forbidden Lord is first. Otherwise, if we don't get rid of him, a second sage will go mad." The sages frowned. Emperor Shao said, "I was beside him when Sage Fated Secrets was cursed. I can confirm that he's definitely not the Dark Forbidden Lord." He scanned the other sages. The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate mocked him. "In that case, aren't you the most suspicious?" Emperor Shao frowned. The two sages began to oppose each other. Li Muyi frowned when he saw this. He was frustrated. Seeing that the sages were arguing over their own desires, he wanted to stand up and leave. He gave up on the providence of the Heavenly Tao and created the little Heavenly Tao himself because of that. For a time, the sages began to guess at each other. Qiu Shilai was the greatest suspect. Once Sage Fated Secrets went mad, only he could freely control the Tao destruction mystical power. This infuriated Qiu Shilai. He had been cursed by the Dark Forbidden Lord too. Time passed. It had been 50 years since ancient fiendish Yin died. Hanju had nothing to do and checked his emails. Your good friend Heavenly Emperor was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure. Your good friend Ji Xianxian has obtained a pseudo-sage divine arm. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your grand disciple Feng Liang's soul has transcended into the primordial era. Your disciple Zhou Fan was attacked by the ancient race X180223. Your good friend Li Daokong was attacked by your good friend Jiang Dugu. Your good friend Jiang Dugu was attacked by your good friend Li Daokong and was severely injured. Your good friend Pan Xan broke through the seal and returned to the immortal world. Your good friend Empress Hudu has recreated the Magus race. Your good friend Nuwa discussed the Tao with the mysterious mighty figure. Her cultivation has increased greatly. The emails became lively again. Hanju was no longer surprised to see Feng Liang's soul transmigrating into the primordial era. It was fine as long as it didn't affect him. What really attracted his attention was that Empress Hutu recreated the Magi. Her ambition was endless. It seemed that the matter of the nether race had stimulated her. Like the restart of the heavenly Tao, she felt that she had hope again. Hanju had no objections to this. This was also good. At least, Empress Hutu would no longer care about the nether race. After thinking about it, he called the nether race's leader Hanyu over. Hanyu knelt in front of him. Hanju first asked about the recent situation of the nether race. After Hanyu relaxed, he asked, "Do you still remember Empress Hutu who created the nether race?" Hanyu was stunned. "I remember, but my memories are already blurry." Not long after Empress Hutu created the nether race, she handed them to Hanju. As time passed, Hanyu really couldn't remember her. "What would you think if I send the nether race back to Empress Hutu's side?" Hanju asked calmly. Hanyu turned pale with fright. "Sect Master, what did we do wrong?" He didn't want to leave the 100-peak immortal river. To be precise, he didn't want to leave Hanju's side. He had long treated the Tao field as his home. He wasn't the only one. All the nether race members also thought the same. Hanju smiled. "I'm just asking. I naturally want you to stay." Hanyu understood. "On behalf of the nether race, I promise to serve you forever. We have no ulterior motives." Hanju nodded in satisfaction. Hanyu's favorability had already reached 6 stars, but it could only be recognized as not enemies. The two of them chatted for a while more. After Hanyu left, Hanju called Han Zuetian over. Ever since he transformed, this was the first time Han Zuetian faced Hanju alone. He was extremely nervous. Hanju asked, "How are the Khanate life forms in the 100-peak immortal river? Do you need more?" After Zutu's palm was destroyed, Khanate life forms began to gather near the 100-peak immortal river again. Han Zuetian said in surprise, "Of course, the more the better. The more low-level living beings there are, the more you can cultivate in peace. The chores and trivial matters in the hidden sect can be handed over to the Khanate life forms. If the hidden sect appears in the future, these living beings can also help the sect elders." Hanju said, "Yes, I'll move in some Khanate life forms. Don't always busy yourself roping in Khanate life forms. Your cultivation has to keep up. Don't be surpassed by them." Han Zuetian hurriedly promised that he wouldn't delay his cultivation. After he left, Hanju started to think. Since he wanted to take in these living beings, he had to arrange their identities in the sect. Hidden soldier, in-name disciple. Chapter 491 Sudden Emergence, Joining of a Mighty Figure. Chapter 491 Sudden Emergence, Joining of a Mighty Figure. After thinking for a few days, Hanju finally made a decision. From today onwards, other than the disciples of the hidden sect, all Khanate life forms are in-name disciples. In the future, they can become full disciples. The nether race will be known as the hidden sect's nether zenith. This means that they are the hidden sect's nether race's zenith heaven. I hope that you will not let me down. The status of all the clansmen is equivalent to the disciples of the hidden sect. The position of the leader, Hanyu, is equivalent to a second-generation disciple. Hanju's voice resounded throughout the entire Tao field, causing the living beings to be extremely excited. They could enter the hidden sect now. The second-generation disciples were Sun Chang'an, Tu Linger, Long Hao, and the others. The first generation was not for disciples, only Hanju was part of it. For a time, the entire hidden sect became lively again. Those vague identities also became confirmed. Not only were the Khanate life forms very excited and looking forward to it, but those of the nether race were also very happy. Previously, they were always humble when facing the hidden sect disciples, mainly because Hanju didn't give them a status. Now, Hanyu was equivalent to being Hanju's disciple. He could also speak in front of him in the future. The entire Nether race was also considered as hidden sect disciples. Hearing the cheers outside, Hanju couldn't help but be happy. It seemed that he had neglected many things. Sometimes a decision from him could change many people. Hanju suddenly thought of Han Zuetian. Perhaps Han Zuetian could help him manage the internal affairs. Although Morongqi was also managing it, he could only roughly discuss it with each disciple. Those disciples who have reached a bottleneck can help manage the internal affairs in the future. Hanju's thoughts became clearer. As the hidden sect became larger and larger, the more disciples there were, the more conflict and trouble there might be. There had to be someone watching. However, when the disciples took in disciples of their own, there should be no need for anyone to especially manage the miscellaneous affairs. After thinking, Hanju closed his eyes and continued cultivating. Dao attainment. This was what he really cared about. 300 years later, Zhou Fan finally returned, but he was not alone. With him were hundreds of thousands of humans. Arriving in front of the Dao field array formation of the 100-peak Immortal River, Zhou Fan emitted a powerful aura, forcing the nearby Khanate lifeforms to not dare to approach. "Master, I'm back," Zhou Fan shouted. Hanju caught sight of the humans and frowned. "If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks." He couldn't directly take them in. It would be fine if the number was small, but with so many people, it was almost the entire human race. If he took them in, the karma would be too great. Moreover, wherever there were people, there would be conflicts. Once he accepted them, there would be endless trouble in the future. Hanju's voice reached Zhou Fan. "Why did you bring so many people?" Zhou Fan replied, "Master, don't worry. I won't bring them into the hidden sect. I've already taught them for hundreds of years. I plan to let them stay nearby and make them leave after they become stronger." Hanju's eyebrows relaxed. It seemed that Zhou Fan was not a sanctimonious saint. Thinking about it carefully, it made sense. This fellow was not a kind protagonist, to begin with, but the protagonist bearing a deep hatred. Hanju moved him in. Zhou Fan quickly came to the Taoist temple. After entering the temple, he recounted his experiences over the years. The human race had been through many difficulties. Their strength was inferior to Khanate lifeforms and ferocious beasts. They were the weakest race in the current immortal world. Zhou Fan had been injured many times in order to protect them. Zhou Fan said, "This ancient race thought that they were very powerful, but they were in a state of disunity. All sorts of kings appeared, just like the demons in the past." Hanju said, "Who cares about them? Cultivate well. Let the powerful members of the human race leave. I can allow you to take in a few human disciples, but not the entire human race. Perhaps they are very united and simple now, but when their cultivation and population become stronger, the humans you know will come. You should know what the situation will be then." Zhou Fan nodded. Along the way, the suffering he had endured the most was from the humans. The master and disciple chatted for a while before Zhou Fan left. That day, the humans settled near the 100-peak Immortal River. After the Khanate lifeforms were warned by Zhou Fan, they did not dare to find trouble with the humans. The appearance of the humans did not affect the hidden sect. As Zhou Fan recounted his experiences, the disciples knew that they were not the only ones. All the cultivators in the immortal world were cultivating diligently. While Zhou Fan escorted the humans, he encountered many cave abodes of mighty figures. The powerful aura emitted made even him palpitate. After the calamity ended, 90% of the living beings died. However, the remaining 10% were not mediocre. Most of them became immeasurable emperors. In addition, without the pressure of competition, they cultivated diligently separately. Their cultivation levels could be said to be constantly increasing. The hidden sect disciples did not want to be surpassed by others. Time passed. Year after year passed. 1,000 years later, Hanju opened his eyes and stood up to stretch his muscles. He scanned with his divine sense and discovered that the human population had already exceeded 10 million. In just 1,000 years, without any danger, the population of the human race had increased greatly. Not only that, but they also built a city. Hanju showed a frown. They didn't plan to leave. This city wasn't built casually. It was obvious that they had spent a lot of effort. Not only that, but the internal affairs of the human race had already been established. There were also various business shops in the city. It seemed that someone in the human race had memories of the previous calamity. Otherwise, if they were all newcomers, how could they quickly build a true city in the dangerous early stage heavenly Dao development? Hanju quickly relaxed his eyebrows. Who cared about them? In any case, if Hanju didn't activate the Dao field array formation, the humans wouldn't be able to enter. Boom! The ground suddenly shook violently as a terrifying aura erupted from afar, wreaking havoc in the world. This aura was even stronger than ancient fiendish Yin's aura. Hanju pinched his fingers to deduce. This aura was on the other side of the immortal world, and was extremely far from the 100-peak immortal river. Talent truly appeared in every generation. This person was venting his pressure like this, clearly wanting to intimidate all living beings. Hanju didn't care. Although this aura was strong, it was nothing to him. Another powerful aura erupted from the other side, as if fighting against that person. The disciples gathered and began to discuss, curious about who they were. 7 years later, the 100-peak immortal river welcomed visitors. Li Daokong and Li Xianao. Hanju spent 4 billion years of his lifespan. After confirming that there was no danger, he moved them into the Taoist temple. Li Daokong cupped his fists and smiled. It's been many years. You seem to have become stronger again. Li Xianao sized him up. For some reason, he felt that Hanju looked familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere before. It was not in the heavenly court, but he couldn't say. Hanju smiled and asked, "Why are you here? Are you inviting me to join the new human school again?" Li Xianao snorted. Li Daokong said, "Do you dare to go against a sage?" "I don't dare." "You. Then, what did you ask us to join the hidden sect?" The one who replied was Li Xianao, who was a little exasperated. Hanju didn't have a good impression of him. "Did you offend a sage?" Li Daokong said calmly, "That's right. We broke up with Master, and were expelled from the human school." Chapter 492 The Two Disciples of the Human School Enter the Hidden Sect. Chapter 492 The Two Disciples of the Human School Enter the Hidden Sect. Hanju was silent. He didn't expect Li Daokong and Li Xianao to be so reckless and dare to betray the sage. Should he accept them or not? Hanju didn't forget that Li Xianao had dug out the chaotic heavenly dog's eyes. After thinking, Hanju shook his head and said, "It's not easy to accept you guys. Firstly, I'm not sure if you'll cultivate in peace after joining the hidden sect, and not cause trouble everywhere. Secondly, your junior dug out my disciple's eyes and forcefully snatched his providence." Li Daokong was stunned. Li Xianao's expression changed. Li Daokong glanced at Li Xianao, and knew what was going on when he saw his expression. At this moment, Li Daokong suddenly reached out, and dug out Li Xianao's eyes. It was so fast that Li Xianao didn't even have time to react. Li Daokong squeezed his right hand, and turned his eyes into dust. He stared at Hanju and said, "I don't care if it's true or not. I'll make him repay the debt. But we both know that both your disciple and my junior can regrow their eyes. You've already seen my sincerity. If you're willing to accept us, we'll listen to you as long as it doesn't go against our bottom line. As for that disciple, I can let my junior teach him a mystical power as an apology." Li Daokong stared at Hanju as he spoke. Although Li Xianao was angry, he didn't say anything. He only covered his eyes as blood flowed down his fingertips. Hanju remained silent. Li Daokong was really ruthless. This made Hanju speechless. After all, he had indeed invited him before. Hanju said, "After entering my hidden sect, other than my instructions, you are not allowed to leave without permission. Usually, I don't need you to do anything. I can still provide you with the Dao lecture and Dao field. You should be able to sense the spirit qi and connate qi of the 100-peak immortal river. So are you willing?" Li Xianao couldn't help but ask, "My senior is a pseudo-sage. Can you preach the Tao to a pseudo-sage? Of course. Then what identity will we have? Let's see how you perform first. We'll arrange it in the future. Hanju wanted to prove the hidden sect's foundation. It was definitely not unreasonable for the two of them to be disciples now. Hanju called for Dianwei, Shi Dudao's replica. He was stronger than Li Daokong. Li Daokong said, "All right, we also want to avoid being targeted by the sages." Hanju said, "Yes, go down. Someone will bring you outside. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks." Li Daokong nodded and left with Li Xianao. After walking out of the Taoist temple, Li Daokong was stunned upon seeing Dianwei. "Why is it you?" Li Daokong frowned. Li Xianao was puzzled. Who was this? Although he couldn't see, he still had his divine sense. His eyes were not important. Dianwei said indifferently, "I'm Dianwei, a guard of the 100-Peak Immortal River. Please follow me. I'll bring you around first." Guard? Li Daokong was shocked. When would Shi Dudao come to the hidden sect to be a guard? Li Daokong was shocked. Although Li Xianao didn't know Shi Dudao, he clearly felt that Dianwei was very strong. He might even be stronger than his senior brother. Dianwei brought them around and deliberately stopped at the Fusang tree. The disciples were all very curious about Li Daokong and his junior brother. Long Hao clicked his tongue in wonder. Even the twins of the human school are here. The hidden sect is becoming stronger. The chaotic heavenly dog nearly peed its pants when it saw Li Xianao. However, it noticed that his eyes were bleeding and his eyelids had clearly sunken. It immediately thought of the truth and worshipped Hanju. "Master must have avenged me." Li Xianao also noticed the chaotic heavenly dog and was enlightened. He said bitterly, "If you have such a powerful master, why didn't you say so back then?" The chaotic heavenly dog fell silent. It didn't know that its master was so powerful. Li Daokong said, "I apologize on my junior's behalf. I'll let him teach you a mystical power later. I hope that the grudge will be settled." The chaotic heavenly dog was extremely nervous from his stare. It hurriedly nodded in agreement. The black hell chicken was furious. "You're so useless. Can you be more firm?" The chaotic heavenly dog nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. Li Daokong did not say much. He also had his own pride. It was their fault, so he could admit it, but he wouldn't lower his head so easily. That day, the two of them established a Taoist temple in the forest. It wasn't far from the hundreds of thousands of other unnamed disciples. Hanju would pay attention to this pair of fellow disciples at first, afraid that they would act recklessly. As time passed, and the two of them did not cause trouble, he was relieved. In a hall outside the 33rd heaven, Li Muyi's expression darkened. Several figures gathered in the hall, including Jiang Dugu. "What? Li Daokong and Li Xianao betrayed us? Ridiculous. We have to capture them. When has a traitor appeared in our human school? Where are they? Li Daokong is too arrogant. He didn't respect us seniors before." The human school's mighty figures cursed angrily. Jiang Dugu did not say a word. His expression darkened, but a hint of joy flashed across his eyes. He was still worrying about how to deal with Li Daokong when he betrayed the sect. Li Muyi said, "The two of them went to the hidden sect. Who's going?" A man in a Taoist robe immediately stood up and said, "Senior, let me go. I've been in seclusion for 70 million years. It's time for me to exercise." Seeing him stand out, the others tacitly agreed and did not fight. "Dan Long, don't start fighting directly when you get there. Ask first," Li Muyi instructed. Dan Long nodded, cupped his hands and bowed. Then he turned around and left. It had been 130 years since Li Daokong and Li Xianao came to seek refuge. On this day, Hanju walked out of the Taoist temple. "Everyone, prepare to listen to the lecture." With that said, the entire 100-Peak Immortal River boiled over. The disciples rushed to the location of the lecture. The Khanate life forms also began to prepare to listen. Li Daokong and Li Xianao followed the disciples to the land of preaching. They were very curious about what Hanju would say. After everyone sat down, Hanju sat on the peak of the mountain and started to preach. He was talking about the great Tao of extreme origin. He planned to bring Li Daokong and Li Xianao into his great Tao as well. As the lecture began, Li Daokong did not feel amazed at first. Li Xian'ao even felt disdain. After all, they had heard the sages preach more than once. However, as time passed, the two of them were quickly shocked. Han Ju was actually preaching the great Tao. He was even more unfathomable and profound than their master Li Muyi. Most importantly, they could understand it, and quickly entered a state of Tao comprehension. He's a sage. A storm brewed in their hearts, especially Li Xian'ao. His eyes that had just grown revealed disbelief. Li Xian'ao has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability: 4 stars. Han Ju saw this notification and didn't care. He continued to preach. Compared to Li Xian'ao, he cared more about Li Daokong. He might become a prominent figure of the hidden sect in the future. Although Dao's sovereign, Zhao Xinyuan, Jiang Yi Zhoufan, and Li Yao's potential were unparalleled, compared to Li Daokong, they lacked an arrogant, domineering aura. An invincible aura. Chapter 493 Change of Attitude, Surpassing the Sages. Chapter 493 Change of Attitude, Surpassing the Sages. This lecture lasted for 100 years. Li Daokong's favorability towards Han Ju increased to 5 stars, and Li Xian'ao to 5 stars. The two of them really betrayed the human school, and had nowhere to go. After Han Ju displayed his strength, they were naturally happy. Li Xian'ao's disdain towards Han Ju mainly came from seniority and cultivation. After this lecture, they all determined that Han Ju was not a junior, and was definitely a sage. No wonder Han Ju had always avoided the calamity. Sages didn't need to fight for great providence from the calamity at all. Also, they felt that Han Ju was stronger than Li Muyi. After hearing his lecture, they gained more insight than from Li Muyi's lecture. Li Daokong had a feeling Han Ju's great Tao was stronger than Li Muyi's. After the lecture, Han Ju returned to the Taoist temple alone. 8 years later, Li Daokong and Li Xian'ao came to visit him. Han Ju let them in. Their favorability towards him was already very high. It was just nice to make them submit. Li Daokong was the first to ask, "You're a sage?" Han Ju shook his head. Li Xian'ao asked, "What Tao were you preaching about earlier?" "Great Tao of extreme origin." Li Daokong and Li Xian'ao looked at each other, and saw the confusion in each other's eyes. They had never heard of the great Tao of extreme origin. Han Ju said, "This is the great Tao I created. Don't tell anyone." The disciples were shocked. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. Creating a great Tao. No wonder he shook his head. This was not something a sage could do. Could he be the Tao ancestor? Li Daokong and Li Xian'ao were shocked. They didn't think Han Ju was lying. The great Tao of extreme origin was indeed stronger than any great Tao they had heard of. Li Xian'ao's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability: 6 stars. Han Ju raised his eyebrows. This Li Xian'ao. Is it so easy to conquer such a cold and annoying fellow? Or did he worship experts? Han Ju looked at Li Daokong, and felt that he had guessed correctly. Li Xian'ao said, "We definitely won't tell anyone. After all, we're already from the hidden sect. Sect master, if Li Muyi comes personally, will you hand us over?" This term of sect master made Han Ju feel comfortable. He liked to see others' attitudes towards him change 180 degrees. Li Daokong glanced at Li Xian'ao, and did not say anything. He knew his junior brother's nature best. "As long as you cultivate in peace and don't cause trouble outside or within the sect, I will protect you," Han Ju replied calmly. He wasn't afraid of Li Muyi. As long as he was in the Tao field, he was not afraid of the heavenly Tao sages. Previously, the various sages had plotted against him. He had long treated them as imaginary enemies. Li Xian'ao immediately promised that the two of them would not cause trouble. After chatting for a while, the two of them left the Taoist temple. Back at his residence, Li Daokong said angrily, "You submitted so quickly. It seems that I didn't dig out your eyes in vain." Li Xian'ao snorted, "Senior, what are you pretending for? Since you've become his disciple, you should know your status. Besides, the sect master doesn't dislike us, and gives us a lecture openly. Isn't such magnanimity worth following?" Li Daokong was silent. He turned around and returned to his Taoist temple. Li Xian'ao did not return to cultivate. Instead, he walked towards the Fusang tree. 200 years passed. Li Xian'ao had completely fused into the hidden sect. He taught the chaotic heavenly dog the mystical power to resolve the grudge, and often sparred with Dao Sovereign, Zhou Fan and the others. Li Xian'ao and Dao Sovereign were both at the early stage of the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm. It was difficult for the two of them to fight, but most of the time, Li Xian'ao had the upper hand. After all, he had lived for a long time and was very experienced. Compared to Li Xian'ao's activity, Li Daokong cultivated in seclusion and rarely walked around. The two of them had different goals. In the entire hidden sect, only Hanju could catch his eye. On this day, a preaching sound came from the human cities near the 100-peak Immortal River. After so many years, the human population had been increasing. Many human cities had been established in a radius of 30 million kilometers. However, there were not many experts among the humans, much less preaching. This lecture was spread very widely, and all the hidden sect disciples in the 100-peak Immortal River could hear it. Li Xian'ao suddenly flew into the sky with a solemn expression. Dao Sovereign rushed over and asked, "What? You know that person?" Because they often sparred, the two quickly established a friendship. Dan Long is a pseudo-sage of the human school. He can be considered our uncle master. He was once the second disciple of the human school. Li Xian'ao's expression was ugly. He knew very well how powerful Dan Long was. His arrival this time was not a coincidence. Dao Sovereign consoled, "Don't be afraid. As long as you don't go out, he can't do anything to you." Li Xian'ao nodded and took a deep breath. It seems that Li Muyi is really angry. In order to capture us, the human school sent such an expert. In the previous calamity, we sought their help. Not only did they not provide assistance, they even sent Jiang Dugu to cause trouble for us. The more Li Xian'ao spoke, the angrier he became. In the end, he gritted his teeth. Dao Sovereign fell silent. Back then, he had also been in the heavenly court. He had been puzzled, but he did not expect Li Daokong and Li Xian'ao to have had such a hard time. Speaking of which, the heavenly court was abandoned. Only Li Daokong and Li Xian'ao persisted until the calamity ended. This matter quickly spread throughout the hidden sect. All the disciples knew that the human school was looking for trouble. However, since Hanju didn't move, they weren't too worried. Hanju had already detected Dan Long's existence. He was a perfected pseudo-sage. Fortunately, he could kill him instantly. Therefore, Hanju continued cultivating and didn't care about Dan Long 50 years later. Dan Long finally couldn't sit still. He came outside the 100-peak Immortal River and shouted, "Sect Master of the Hidden Sect, let our human school's first and second disciples out." Hanju ignored him. After a while, Dan Long frowned. The 100-peak Immortal River was silent. No one bothered with him. He continued, "This is the sage's intention. If the hidden sect wants to avoid the world, it's best not to interfere in the matters of other sections." Hanju still ignored him. Li Xian'ao stood in Li Daokong's Taoist temple with a nervous expression. He asked, "Does Sect Master plan to pretend to be dead?" Li Daokong said calmly, "Continue watching." The 100-peak Immortal River fell silent again. This time Dan Long was angry. Too much. This sect master of the hidden sect was really not giving him face. Just as he was about to attack, Hanju's voice floated out. "Who are the eldest and second disciples of the human school?" Dan Long suppressed his anger and said, "Li Daokong, Li Xian'ao. They aren't here. There are no such people among my disciples. Senior might be mistaken." "You're telling me this? I'll know if there is after I check." "No, I can't let you in. If your goal is to kill me, won't it be stupid of me to let you in?" Hearing Hanju's words, Dan Long laughed angrily. "Great," he said disdainfully. "Whether you agree or not, I'm going in regardless." He immediately rushed towards the 100-peak Immortal River. He wasn't surprised when he bumped into the array formation. It was obvious there was an array formation here, since his divine sense couldn't spy inside. Dan Long took out a white jade sword and slashed. Chapter 494 Hatred of a Sage. Chapter 494 Hatred of a Sage. Dan Long slashed out with his sword. sword chi scattered and landed on the Dao Field's array formation, stirring up a spectacular commotion. But it did not cause any substantial damage. Seeing this, Danlong frowned and began to quickly brandish his sword. Great dermic powers poured out from his body, like a flood breaking through a dam, shaking the ground. The humans also heard the commotion. Cultivators flew out of the city and watched from afar. They recognized Danlong as the mighty figure who had preached the Tao to them. What is that immortal doing? Something seems to be stopping him. He wants to challenge the immortal land. What should we do? Ancestor Zhoufan once said that we are not allowed to enter the immortal land. Could this mighty figure be Ancestor Zhoufan's enemy? We have no choice. Just stay out of it. No matter how Danlong attacked or even affected the human cities, he couldn't break through the Dao Field. The originally nervous hidden sect members were all amused. The Khanate lifeforms also began to tease him. Li Daokong sighed. I didn't expect Sect Master to have such an array formation. I can't sense what it is at all. Li Xianao nodded and smiled teasingly. Look at Danlong. He's flustered and exasperated. This is the first time I've seen him like this. It's really embarrassing. After saying so much, you can't barge in. Perhaps the other sages are watching. 10 minutes later, Danlong gave up. He floated in the air with an extremely dark expression. He was in a dilemma. He could neither advance nor retreat. Leaving just like that would not only embarrass him, but also the human school. But it wouldn't work if he continued trying to barge in. Hanju's voice floated out. Senior, there's really no one from the human school in the hidden sect. Please understand and leave. He spoke very politely, wanting to give Danlong a way out. But it was useless to give him an out now. Danlong could imagine the sages all watching him from beyond the 33rd heaven. If he left today, he would really lose all his face. But what could he do now? If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. Danlong glanced at the distant human city. The human race was so close to the 100-peak immortal river. Could they be related? Danlong's eyes flickered. If you want to threaten me with the human race, is the human school's ideals still kept? Hanju's voice sounded again. Only Danlong could hear this voice. His expression turned even uglier. Stop before it's too late. Don't fall into eternal damnation. Hanju's voice entered Danlong's ears again. He wasn't afraid of him. He just didn't want to fall out with the entire human school now. When Danlong heard this, he was completely moved. He turned around and left. Although he was very unhappy with Hanju, he was telling the truth. After Danlong left, peace returned to the world. Apart from Li Daokong and Li Xianao, the ones affected the most were the humans. After experiencing Danlong's lecture, the humans all thought that he was very strong. But they didn't expect that he couldn't even enter the immortal land. What kind of mighty figure was hidden in the immortal land? In the future, the 100-peak immortal river would become a legend of the human race. Li Daokong and Li Xianao were completely relaxed. They were no longer worried about being hunted down by the human school and could cultivate in peace. 10 years later, Hanju received Qiu Shilai's dream. This fellow was spamming again. Hanju chose to accept it. He wanted to see what Qiu Shilai had to say. In the dream, the moment Hanju appeared, he heard Qiu Shilai ask, "You took in Li Daokong and Li Xianao?" Hanju was already prepared. When I took them in, they were no longer part of the human school. Qiu Shilai said, "You offended Li Mui. It won't be easy for you later. Send these two to our Buddhist sect." Qiu Shilai had been coveting Li Daokong for a long time. Among the Dao sect disciples, Li Daokong was the most talented. Li Daokong didn't have a chaotic physique. His talent was mainly displayed in his comprehension ability, not to mention the previous calamity. Even if a few more were compared, Li Daokong's potential was unparalleled. Hanju said, "Then I have to ask for their intention. Give them to the Buddhist sect directly." "I'm afraid not." Hanju shook his head. The atmosphere instantly fell silent. Hanju wasn't afraid of breaking up with him. Otherwise, if this continued, Qiu Shilai would definitely ask for even more absurd things. "Hanju, do you still remember my kindness?" Qiu Shilai asked again, his tone becoming unprecedentedly cold. Hanju said, I remember. I owe you a favor, and I will definitely repay you in the future. However, I only want to cultivate now and not participate in the battle. Li Daokong has done me a favor, so I have to accept him. Of course, if the Buddhist sect is in trouble in the future, I won't stand by and watch. He was bullshitting. Li Daokong had little karma with him. Qiu Shilai naturally understood this, but he didn't want to push Hanju away directly. After all, the other sages were watching. Even if Hanju offended the human school and Qiu Shilai, he could still seek refuge with Chan the school, the Jie school, and even other heavenly Dao sages. The current Hanju wasn't just a variable. The hidden sect had already displayed its potential. Qiu Shilai said, "Just remember what you said. I will help you persuade the human school. I just hope that there won't be a next time." "Thank you, sage." Hanju immediately replied. Qiu Shilai has developed hatred towards you. Current hatred points, 1, 5 stars. Hanju ignored him. To sages, being able to develop disgust was already considered an enemy. However, Qiu Shilai felt that Hanju was still useful and didn't want to break up for the time being. The dream ended. Hanju returned to the Taoist temple and continued cultivating. In any case, sages couldn't enter the immortal world or break through his Dao field. He didn't care at all. However, Qiu Shilai's attitude proved Li Daokong's talent. He could become a sage. Hanju's heart beat faster. Apart from him, Li Daokong was definitely the closest one to becoming a sage in the entire hidden sect. What Hanju wanted to do was to nurture other disciples while cultivating. This way, he could continue cultivating and have his disciples help him resolve any problems. After Dan Long left, the human school no longer sent any mighty figures to find trouble. They seemed to have given up. The hidden sect competition began again. This time, Li Daokong and Li Xianao joined. As expected, Li Daokong took first place. Li Xianao and Dao Sovereign tied, taking second place. Zhao Xinyuan was third, Zhou Fan was fourth, and Li Yao was fifth. There weren't many changes in the rankings after that. However, this matter agitated the other disciples. Would other experts join the hidden sect in the future? At the same age, they were confident, but compared to those mighty figures who had lived for countless years, they were definitely far inferior. For a time, the hidden sect stirred up another wind of cultivation. Li Daokong wasn't proud. He challenged Hanju again, and was ruthlessly insta-killed. His Dao heart almost shattered. After fighting Hanju, he even suspected that he was not a pseudo-sage. The difference in talent was too great. Just like that, 800 years passed. On this day, the sky was suddenly filled with purple light. It was endless and beautiful. Hanju, who was cultivating, opened his eyes and looked up. His gaze passed through the Taoist temple to the sky. A strong sense of uneasiness arose in his heart. It had been a long time since he felt so uneasy. Chapter 495 3 Pure Sacred Ancestor, Heaven Split. Chapter 495 3 Pure Sacred Ancestor. Heaven Split. Hanju pinched his fingers to deduce, but still couldn't find the source of the uneasiness. He had to use the derivation function to ask, "Why do I feel uneasy? 3 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" This was already the value of a heavenly Dao sage. Hanju frowned and chose to continue. A figure appeared in his mind, and lines of words appeared in front of him. 3 Pure Sacred Ancestor. Perfected pseudo-sage realm. Immeasurable emperor, fused with the Dharma idol of a sage. Disciple of the Dao ancestor. The strongest in the immortal world. Because you accepted Li Daokong and Li Xianao. The other sages mocked and ridiculed Li Mui, who became furious and released the 3 Pure Sacred Ancestor. He is prepared to preach the Dao to the immortal world, and suppress the hidden sect, and the various providence sections. The 3 Pure Sacred Ancestor had white hair and looked sage-like. There was nothing special about his appearance. He was fused with the sage's Dharma idol. Could it be that Laozi, the heavenly sect master, and the heavenly lord of primordial beginning had created him together? If that was the case, he was indeed very strong. The strongest in the immortal world had already become a title of providence. Hanju frowned and secretly asked, "Can I defeat the 3 Pure Sacred Ancestor?" 3 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. You can't kill the 3 pure sacred ancestor in the heavenly Tao. You can kill him outside the heavenly Tao. Hanju raised his eyebrows. So fierce? The 3 pure sacred ancestor treated the entire immortal world as his Tao field. He was invincible. However, Hanju wasn't afraid. The 3 pure sacred ancestor wasn't a sage and couldn't break through his Tao field. Moreover, from the outcome of the previous derivation, the appearance of the 3 pure sacred ancestor wasn't targeted at him, but at the entire force of the immortal world. It has been less than 20,000 years since the calamity ended. I hope that you won't cause trouble and focus on farming. Hanju thought silently. Under normal circumstances, billions of years would have to pass before the next immeasurable calamity. He was afraid that the sages were interfering. However, even if a sage took action, the prerequisite for triggering the calamity was that there were enough living beings in the immortal world. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Without enough pawns, how could they play chess? The heavenly Tao couldn't sense a burden, so it naturally did not release endless negative karma. Hanju stood up and walked out of the Taoist temple. He was disturbed by the 3 pure sacred ancestor, so he went out to take a walk. The disciples had already walked out of their residences and were discussing the heavenly phenomenon. Hanju came to the Fusang tree, and the disciples immediately surrounded him. Master, what's with this phenomenon? The black hell chicken was the first to ask. Hanju smiled. Perhaps a mighty figure has appeared. Perhaps the human school wants to deal with us. If you go out, you will definitely die. The black hell chicken hurriedly nodded. I'm not going out. Whoever goes out is a fool. Tu Linger came over and asked, Master, when are you asking me to go to your Taoist temple? What was she saying? Hanju knew what she meant and said calmly, Let's wait until you have a breakthrough. He flashed to the Fusang tree and asked, How's the situation recently? The Fusang tree replied, I formed 2 more space-time vortexes, but without your permission, I didn't activate them. Hanju smiled. Not bad. You've learned to be obedient. Let me take a look. With that, 2 space-time vortexes appeared in front of him. Hanju scanned with his divine sense, and quickly saw the entire situation of the 2 worlds. Compared to the Kiliacosm world, these 2 worlds were much weaker. The strongest was only at the zenith heaven realm. They seemed to have formed a heavenly Tao of their own. Hanju frowned. The karma between the heavenly Tao of the 2 worlds and the heavenly Tao of the immortal world was very weak. As a pseudo-sage, Hanju could deduce it even without the derivation function. Hanju was very curious. Other than the immortal world and the deity realm of the ruins of End, how many heavenly Tao worlds were hidden? Could it be related to the number of sages? Hanju felt that the strongest should be the deity realm of the ruins of End. However, the deity realm of the ruins of End and the immortal world were separated by the dark forbidden zone. They didn't interfere with each other. Regarding the deity realm of the ruins of End, Hanju's intention was to never step into it unless he could dominate it. After watching for a while, Hanju lost interest. He asked the Fusang tree to close the spatial vortex. Just as he was about to ask about its cultivation situation, the black hell chicken's scream sounded beside him. Oh my God! The sky is splitting. The black hell chicken's voice was very sharp. Hanju looked up and saw a huge black crack in the purple sky that stretched to the horizon. Hanju vaguely saw a pair of eyes spying on the immortal world. In front of these eyes, everything seemed tiny. It hid in the darkness with a cold gaze. Hanju used the simulation trial to detect the surrounding enemies, and didn't detect them. This meant that the other party was extremely far from the 100-peak immortal river. 3 pure sacred ancestor? No. Hanju felt killing intent. The other party was filled with killing intent towards the immortal world. Soon, the crack in the sky shrank and the purple light disappeared. Hanju returned to the Taoist temple. The Tao field wouldn't be affected even if the sky collapsed. He wasn't worried at all. I seem to be a little arrogant now. Hanju thought silently. Ever since the Tao field upgraded, he was not as cautious as before. He would become a sage first. Otherwise, he would be an ant in the end. Even if he couldn't be killed, he would still be an ant. Inside a palace, Li Muyi, the South Extreme Heavenly Venerate, and Sect Master Tianju meditated around him. Sect Master Tianju snorted. What does Shi Du Dao mean? The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate said with an ugly expression. I don't know when he formed a grudge with the three pure sacred ancestor. Li Muyi said. Although Shi Du Dao is strong, it's impossible for him to kill the three pure sacred ancestor in the immortal world. We don't have to worry. Sect Master Tianju looked at Li Muyi and snorted. Why did you let the three pure sacred ancestor out? The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate also looked at him with an unfriendly gaze. Li Mu said expressionlessly, the hidden sect is too strong. If we let them be, all the geniuses of the immortal world will be absorbed by them. The Dao sect needs a true mighty figure to preach the Dao. Sect Master Tianju and the South Extreme Heavenly Venerate still frowned, not believing his words. Ar Li Muyi said, Shi Du Dao is always wandering around the sage Dao field. He once almost became the personal disciple of the Dao ancestor. If he and the three pure sacred ancestor fight, it will be a huge loss for the Dao sect no matter who wins. We're the disciples of the Dao sect, we have to stop it. Sect Master Tianju narrowed his eyes and said, the three pure sacred ancestor is the obstacle between our Dao sect and the Dao destruction mystical power. The Dao ancestor taught Qiushilai and sage fated secrets the Dao destruction mystical power. He also created the three pure sacred ancestor for us, and he has the ability to slaughter all living beings. He hopes that we can coexist peacefully. However, sage fated secrets has already gone mad. Don't you think it's strange that you released the three pure sacred ancestor? The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate's eyes flickered. It was unknown what he was thinking clearly. There was a conflict between the three sages, and they could not trust each other. Li Muyi said slowly, ever since the previous Heavenly Dao sage retired, the three pure sacred ancestor has always belonged to me. I have the right to control him. As for your doubts, in my opinion, there's no dark forbidden lord at all. Sect Master Tianju stood up and said, in that case feel free. He vanished. The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate also stood up. He said, by the way, although the three pure sacred ancestor is strong, can he withstand the Dao destruction mystical power? With that, he turned into a black shadow and dispersed like mist. Chapter 496 Zen Buddha, 25,000 years old. Chapter 496 Zen Buddha, 25,000 years old. Spring passed and autumn came. 700 years passed. The immortal world had not changed much in the past 700 years. For example, the 100-peak immortal river was still the same. Because the humans occupied the mountain area near the 100-peak immortal river, the number of connate life forms gathered decreased. After the humans experienced Dan Long's lecture, many great cultivators appeared. The increase in strength caused the humans' ambitions to rise. They began to hunt connate life forms and ferocious beasts that had yet to transform. In their eyes, living beings who did not transform into humans were no different from ferocious beasts. Humans were the spirits of all living beings. The appearance of humans was also mysterious. Before there was a human, the appearance of all the living beings would be roughly the same. Nuwa had imitated the forms of living beings and created humans to obtain the recognition of the heavenly Dao. Thus, humans became the first heavenly Dao race. The current heavenly race also maintained their human appearance. The hidden sect also saw the battle between the humans and the surrounding connate life forms. Han Zuetian and the connate life forms who were considered in-name disciples of the hidden sect were all very unhappy. We should cultivate well and not disturb each other. However, because of the Dao field, they could only grit their teeth. Han Zhu didn't know about this, as he had been cultivating in seclusion. He was still far from the perfected pseudosage realm, but he could feel that he was improving on this day. Han Zhu took out the Book of Misfortune and cursed sage fated secrets while checking his emails. Your good friend Pan Xian was attacked by a pseudosage and was severely injured. Your good friend Ji Xianxian accidentally entered the primordial phoenix clan's mystic realm. Your good friend Huang Zuantian was cursed by a mysterious curse. Your grand disciple Feng Liang was cursed by a mysterious curse. Your good friend Divine General has comprehended a mystical power. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Empress Hutu received guidance from a mysterious mighty figure. Her cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Emoju has received guidance from a sage. Her cultivation has increased greatly. The mysterious curse had appeared again. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Hanju raised his eyebrows. It seemed that the Dark Forbidden Lord still had many believers. Hanju noticed Emoju. She was still in Li Muyi's hands. Back then, in order to build a relationship with him, Li Muyi had taken her into the Dao field. Now that he had a conflict with Li Muyi and Emoju had obtained the guidance of a sage, he could smell a conspiracy. However, he did not care. Did he want to use Emoju to threaten him? Impossible. Hanju's Dao heart was as firm as a rock and wouldn't be affected. There was nothing worthy of his attention. The current immortal world was still peaceful. 5 days later, Hanju continued cultivating. About 20 years passed. Beside the 100-peak immortal river, a monk entered the human city. This monk looked to be in his 40s. He wore a kasaya and held a scepter. Compared to the beast cloth worn by the humans, he was especially eye-catching. The moment he entered the city, he attracted the attention of the humans and pointed. Ba, the monk muttered softly, then began to wander around the city. Several days later, all sorts of legends about the Buddhist sect spread throughout the city. The humans exclaimed. Unlike Dan Long, who directly preached the Tao, the monk popularized the various culture legends of the Buddhist sect, letting the commoners know how mortals obtain the Tao through Buddhism. The story had a sense of immersion and was filled with motivation. On the other side, Chu Shuren went to visit Hanju. Grandmaster, the Buddhists have sent the Zen Buddha to join the human race. The Zen Buddha is best at bewitching people. If the human race is taken in by him, the Buddhists will stay beside the hidden sect. This is not a good thing, Chu Shuren said seriously. He was once the Supreme Buddha. He knew the Buddhists very well, and was even very familiar with their methods. Now that he was a disciple of the hidden sect, he naturally had to consider the sect. Hanju said, It's fine. The 100-peak immortal river is already isolated by my mystical power. No matter what the Buddhists do, they can't take half a step into the 100-peak immortal river. Chu Shuren asked, What if the humans beg you? Hanju said, I'm not close to the current humans. The mortal world I came from is actually still around. It's just that it's hidden in the depths of my soul. His eyes narrowed. His divine sense directly hooked Chu Shuren's divine sense and pulled it into his world of stars, instantly arriving at the reroll world. As for the world of stars, due to the concealment of the nebula's primordial chi, Chu Shuren could not spy on it. Chu Shuren's divine sense covered the reroll world, and he couldn't help but become shocked. This mortal world, the white-robed Buddha, who was cultivating, suddenly opened his eyes. Sensing Chu Shuren's divine sense, he was secretly nervous. Isn't this the Supreme Buddha? On second thought, the Supreme Buddha had already become Hanju's disciple. There was no need to worry. Several breaths later, Hanju isolated Chu Shuren's divine sense. Chu Shuren opened his eyes and took a deep breath. He sighed. Grandmaster is really capable. The humans outside are indeed not worth mentioning. You have long left a seed for the humans. I truly admire you. He was sincere. With Hanju's cultivation, the reroll world was not beneficial to him at all. He could keep it because of his good intentions. There were too few cultivators like Hanju, who could still take care of the cultivators who were born in the mortal world. The higher one's cultivation level, the weaker their humanity. They would eventually become immortal god-mighty figures who only lived for themselves. Cultivate well. Actually, I value your potential the most. I hope that among the hidden sect disciples, you will be in the top 3. Hanju stared at him. Chu Shuren nodded with a firm gaze. Following such a benevolent person, his Tao heart became more stable. He wanted to help Hanju reach the peak. At that time, he would open up a truly peaceful and kind heavenly Tao world. After Chu Shuren left, Hanju used the simulation trial to test the experts outside the 100-peak immortal river. Zen Buddha. Early stage Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm, one of the Buddhist sects Buddhas. Early stage Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm. He wasn't that weak. Hanju couldn't be bothered to enter the simulation trial, and ignored him. Time passed quickly. More than 1,000 years passed. In the blink of an eye, Hanju was 25,000 years old. The Zen Buddha was very capable. The human race had already become Buddhist cultivators. Buddhist cultivators had a high status in the human race. On this day, a group of Buddhist cultivators arrived near the 100-peak immortal river. The leader was an old monk. He knelt down first, and the other monks followed. "Is Ancestor Zhoufan here?" the old monk shouted. The other monks began to kowtow. After a while, Zhoufan's voice floated over. "What is it?" He was very impatient. He hated the Buddhist sect the most. He felt that he had been stabbed in the back when humans cultivated Buddhism. The old monk cried, "Please come out and save the humans. Recently, there has been a plague in the clan. Even immortals can't treat it." Inside the Taoist temple, Zhoufan frowned. Were they trying to trick him out? At this moment another voice sounded. "Humph, the plague came at a good time. This is the punishment of the heavenly Tao. The humans slaughtered Khanate lifeforms without restraint, and threw their corpses into the wilderness. This is a sin." Li Xianeo's voice sounded. The old monk continued crying. "Ancestor Zhoufan, if you don't come, the human race might go extinct." As soon as he finished speaking, a terrifying gust of wind came from the 100-peak immortal river, and directly sent the group of monks flying. Not only them, but everyone in a radius of 10 million kilometers was swept into the horizon, and the human city was directly razed to the ground. The humans in the wind were not ravaged, but they couldn't control their bodies, and could only be swept away by the wind. The entire human race had been moved away. Chapter 497 Weaklings Conflict, Tao Devil's Stand. Chapter 497 Weaklings Conflict, Tao Devil's Stand. It was Hanju. He moved the entire human race several regions away from the 100-peak immortal river. Zhoufan was stunned when he saw this. Then he heaved a sigh of relief. When he heard that the human race might be extinct, he instinctively felt pity. In the end, the human race was moved away. He suddenly woke up. How could the human race be destroyed so easily? Many disciples in the hidden sect were from the human race. At the same time, he was shocked by Hanju's cultivation. His divine sense could no longer capture the humans. Hanju blew them away in a single breath. Such ability was unimaginable. Inside the Taoist temple, Hanju looked impatient. They only know how to talk. They aren't ever satisfied. Hanju muttered to himself. No matter if the human race was really in danger, or if it was the arrangement of the Buddhist sect, Hanju couldn't be bothered to pursue it, and directly sent them away. In the past few years, the humans had been building cities crazily, and had almost completely surrounded the 100-peak immortal river. This was not a coincidence. Unfortunately, they had overestimated themselves. In front of absolute power, any schemes were a joke. Hanju probed the ground with his divine sense. Of the 1,000 Qilin eggs, 90% had already hatched. Not bad. At this period, the longer Khanate lifeforms were nurtured, the greater their physical potential. Of course, it was only the physical potential. At Hanju's level, physical potential was no longer important. He cared more about comprehension. Li Yao's physical potential was not top-notch, but her comprehension was extremely strong. This was also the reason why she could chase after the top-notch disciples of the hidden sect. At this moment, Li Daokong suddenly came to visit him. Hanju smiled and asked, "Why are you here?" After Li Daokong and Li Xianeo joined the hidden sect, they had been very well behaved. It was better than Hanju had expected, especially Li Xianeo, who even took the initiative to befriend other disciples. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. After interacting with them for so many years, Hanju had already completely accepted them. Li Daokong asked, "Sect Master, may I ask what status we have in the hidden sect?" Hanju said in a low voice. From today onwards, you will be the hidden sect guardians. Your status will be equivalent to second-generation disciples. You will be the first guardian, and Li Xian'ao will be the second. How about that? Li Daokong smiled. Thank you, sect master. He didn't dare to think of sitting on the same level as Hanju. Now that his mentality had changed, in his heart, Hanju was even higher than the heavenly Dao sage. Li Daokong didn't stay any longer. He bowed and left. Hanju thought for a moment and called Jiang Yin. From today onwards, you are a guardian of the hidden sect. Your status is equivalent to a second-generation disciple. Said Jiang Yi was pleasantly surprised. He asked, Am I the only guardian? You're the third guardian. You're ranked behind Li Daokong and Li Xian'ao. Huh. Jiang Yi's smile instantly collapsed. However, on second thought, it was not nice to let him be in front of Li Daokong. He wasn't Li Daokong's match at all. Just like that, Jiang Yi became the third guardian. He spread this news smugly. The three guardians sounded stronger than the four disciples. Regarding this, the disciples of the hidden sect were envious and jealous. Guardians sounded stronger than disciples. After Li Daokong, Li Xian'ao, and Jiang Yi became guardians, the entire hidden sect felt even more condensed. The previous hidden sect was too loosely defined. In the past few years, Hanju had gradually confirmed the identities of the people he knew, as if he was sending a signal. The hidden sect was getting serious. Rules were set in place. After the humans were moved away, the 100-peak immortal river regained its calm. After witnessing Hanju's power, the disciples cultivated even harder. They yearned for the ability to move mountains and seas. Time passed. Another 1,000 years passed. Hanju's cultivation level increased again. He was getting closer and closer to the perfected pseudo-sage realm. What he saw was not the perfected pseudo-sage realm, but the sage realm. The sage realm was the starting point. On this day, the ground and the mountains shook as it approached again. It was not a phenomenon, but a battle between powerful figures in the distance. Hanju opened his eyes and discovered that two zenith heavens were fighting. One of them was a Buddha, and the other had the aura of a god. But it was not completely similar to the aura of an immortal god. It should be someone from the heavenly race. The battle between Buddha and heaven was extremely powerful. Both sides wanted to kill the other. Hanju wasn't interested after taking a look. Weaklings were fighting. However, from the looks of it, the Buddhist sect had begun to fight with the heavenly race, probably to fight for the position of heavenly Dao sage. It was fine as long as it didn't threaten Hanju. Emperor Shao sent you a dream. Do you accept? Emperor Shao, a sage of the devil race? Hanju didn't want to participate, and decided to ignore it. Several days later, Emperor Shao sent him another dream. Hanju continued to ignore the cycle repeated. 5 months passed. Emperor Shao sent him dreams 7 times. The battle between the zenith heavens finally ended. Both sides were injured and no one died. They were lonely. Emperor Shao sent you a dream. Do you accept? Again. Hanju frowned and asked secretly. Is it dangerous to accept the dream? 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Not for the time being. Hanju chose to accept the dream. In the dream, Hanju saw Emperor Shao. This place seemed to be chaotic. Gray mist surged continuously. Emperor Shao wore a black robe and looked like the Dark Forbidden Lord. Hanju asked warily, Dark Forbidden Lord? Emperor Shao frowned. What Dark Forbidden Lord? I'm a sage. It's an urgent matter, so I'm visiting you in your dreams. Hanju bowed in fear and cupped his hands. Greetings, sage. Do any sage want you to compete to become a heavenly Dao sage? Yes, it's all fake. Nua's primordial purple chi is missing. The sages want to support a pseudo-sage and share their sage providence with the candidates to help them become a sage on the surface. They actually want to use them to execute the Dao destruction mystical power. Emperor Shao began to explain to Hanju what the Dao destruction mystical power was. The more Hanju listened, the more he frowned. Sages were really ruthless. They actually wanted to use the Dao destruction mystical power. It turned out that in the previous calamity, other than the heavenly race, The other Providence sects had suffered heavy losses. When Su Qi used the Tao destruction mystical power, their disciples did not leave and were still in the immortal world. In the end, most of the disciples died. After the calamity ended, the Tao sect sages secretly held their breaths and wanted to take revenge. Hanju found it strange. Shouldn't sages take revenge on sage-fated secrets? Emperor Xiao said, "You're a variable that the Tao ancestor has determined. If the heavenly Tao faces danger, you might have to reverse the situation." Hanju said fearfully, "I don't have the ability." Emperor Xiao said impatiently, "I've already said what needs to be said. That's all." He waved his hand and the dream shattered. Hanju's consciousness returned to his body. Is Emperor Xiao lying to me? 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue? No, huh? Hanju was stunned. The sage of the devil race was stopping the sages of the Tao sect from destroying the world? Did he take the wrong script? Wait. The Tao ancestor actually did not destroy the devils, and even let them become sages. Could there be something else involved? From Hanju's understanding, the heavenly Tao sages might not be all good. They were all working for their own ends and plotting against the heavens. From this point of view, they might not be as noble and kind as Emperor Xiao. Chapter 498 Perfected Pseudo-Sage, Words of a Sage. Chapter 498 Perfected Pseudo-Sage, Words of a Sage. Hanju didn't deduce what ambitions the sages had anymore. It didn't affect him anyway. It was enough to curse sage-fated secrets until he went mad. If he continued cursing, the heavenly Tao might collapse again. Hanju only wanted to hide in the Tao field and cultivate. 3 years later, I'm Taoist Qingtian. In the extreme south in the Scarlet-Green Sea, I will set up a Tao field to preach the Tao for all living beings. I will talk about the immortal Tao and the sage Tao. In 100 years, when the lecture begins, all living beings can come and listen to the Tao and comprehend the power of immortality. A voice resounded in the immortal world. Hanju counted with his fingers. The other party was only a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. A Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal dared to preach the sage Tao? He was really courting death. Aren't you afraid of offending a sage? On second thought, the other party might be the disciple of a sage. Hanju shook his head and laughed. In the next 1,000 years, many mighty figures sent voice transmissions to the entire immortal world to preach the Tao. There was a trend of hundreds of families fighting. 1,000 years later, Hanju was finally close to the perfected pseudo-sage realm. It had been nearly 7,000 years since his last breakthrough. Hanju was excited. He first cursed sage-fated secrets to celebrate. 5 days later, the curse ended and Hanju continued cultivating. In one go, he had reached perfection. At the same time, an uninvited guest arrived outside the 100-peak immortal river. These were 3 living beings that looked like humans, but had inhuman faces. They arrived at the top of a hill. The person in the lead was a living being with an eagle head and a human body. He wore a purple robe with a crimson edge. The eagle-headed creature frowned. My divine sense can't spy on it at all. As expected of the number 1 forbidden land in the immortal world. The snake-headed creature beside him asked, "Brother, are we going to barge in forcefully?" The eagle-headed living being shook his head. "We can't act rashly without certainty. It's not easy for us 3 immortals to come this far. We can't be careless. There are many mighty figures hidden in the immortal world. If there are mighty figures in the 100-peak immortal river, we have to be polite." The other 2 living beings looked at each other and nodded silently. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. Thus, the 3 immortals began to take root nearby and create their own cave abode. Under the fusang tree, the black hell chicken shouted, "There are 3 transformed living beings living outside the 100-peak immortal river. They're all immortal emperors." Ada snorted. "What's there to care about mere immortal emperors?" Xiao Er nodded. "Immortal emperor." The hidden sect didn't lack immortal emperors at all. After so many years, they and the nether race had already begun to break through to the deity realm. The chaotic heavenly dog asked curiously, Don't tell me they want to barge into our 100-peak immortal river? No way. TSK, do you think they have dog brains? What do you mean? Be polite. He's Master Chicken's son. You are all not human. Alright, don't bully the heavenly dog. He has the backing of the second guardian now. It's impressive. The hidden sect disciples under the Fusang tree began to chat and laugh. They did not think much of the three immortals, not to mention an immortal emperor. Even if a pseudo-sage attacked, the hidden sect disciples would not panic. 500 years later, Hanju finally reached the point where he could break through. In a good mood, he immediately started his seclusion. While he was in seclusion, the three immortals finally couldn't sit still anymore. They began to attempt to enter the 100-peak immortal river, but they were blocked by the array formation. How dare you? A shout sounded, scaring the three immortals away. A white-robed man appeared in the sky above the 100-peak immortal river, looking down at them. An expert. The three immortals were shocked by the other party's temperament. It was as if they had seen a legendary sage. Eagle-head immortal said. We're the three immortals of Chu Jun. We are specially here to pay our respects to the 100-peak immortal river. Before this matter, we have already stayed for 500 years and have not seen anyone. Therefore, we tried trespassing. I hope that senior will not be angry. In addition, can you accept us? The white-robed man frowned. Take you in? I can't make the decision. I advise you to give up. You can't barge in even if you're a pseudo-sage. He could not make a decision. Eagle-head immortal asked carefully. What's your position in the 100-peak immortal river? In-name disciple. It's nothing. It's just that I live in the border area. So I came to stop you. I advise you not to act recklessly. Otherwise, our hidden sect's mighty figure can destroy your body and soul in one go. The white-robed man said impatiently. In-name disciple? The three immortals were shocked. At this moment, the white-robed man turned around and went back in, quickly disappearing. Snakehead immortal said excitedly. Brother, there really is a peerless mighty figure here. Eaglehead immortal took a deep breath and said, we can't leave. Since the mighty figures of the 100-peak immortal river didn't attack us, it means that they are compassionate. As long as we show enough sincerity, we will definitely be able to move them. Besides, our potential is not bad. The other two immortals nodded in agreement. They called themselves the three immortals, but they knew that they were not immortals at all. They needed a backing. Thus, the three immortals of Chu Jun continued to stay near the 100-peak immortal river. Every once in a while, they would come to the formation and kowtow, wanting to move the mighty figure. Just like that, 50 years passed. Hanju successfully broke through. His dermic power soared. The feeling of becoming stronger brought great satisfaction to his empty heart. He checked his attributes panel. Name: Hanju. Lifespan: 2, 7553/9 sextillion 890 quintillion 9 quadrillion 999 trillion 999 billion 999 million 999,999 race. Primordial fiend celestial, immeasurable emperor. Cultivation: perfected pseudo-primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal realm. Technique: primordial chaos reincarnation great Tao. Heavenly cycle body tempering, great Tao of life and death, great Tao of karma, great Tao of extreme origin. His lifespan did not double. It increased by a third. Next, Hanju could attempt Tao attainment. He continued to consolidate his cultivation for another 27 years. In a few months, he raised all his sword Tao mystical powers to their limits. Hanju was about to cultivate the grand unity aspect when Han Zuetian came to seek an audience. Hanju let him enter the Taoist temple. Han Zuetian knelt in front of him and said, Grandmaster, recently many transformed living beings have come to the 100-peak immortal river. They're all from various providence sections. It's said that the 100-peak immortal river contains primordial purple chi for attaining the Tao. This is not good. His expression was grave. The array formation of the 100-peak immortal river was strong, but it could not stop the gathering of all living beings. Hanju said, so be it. They can't barge in. Primordial purple chi? It was unknown who was playing tricks, but he would deal with them later. Hanju only wanted to attain the Tao first. Han Zuetian asked carefully, I heard from the living beings outside that it was said by a sage. This means a lot. Who doesn't believe the words of a sage? At that time, even a pseudo-sage might come. Can our array formation block it? Hanju's eyes turned cold. Mind your own business and go cultivate. The hidden sect has experienced the immeasurable calamity. What haven't we seen? Don't spread such words in the sect, and affect the other's cultivation mood. Understand? In an instant, Han Zuetian felt a terrifying pressure, and almost suffocated. He hurriedly nodded. Hanju waved his hand, and gestured for him to leave. Han Zuetian hurriedly left the Taoist temple. Sage! Hanju was disdainful. He didn't directly deduce which sage it was. At this juncture, he definitely couldn't curse that sage directly. Once he did, it was very likely that his identity would be exposed. In any case, it was useless even if a sage personally barged in. Hanju only had one goal now: become a sage. Chapter 499 Undying and Imperishable, Battling a Sage. Chapter 499 Undying and Imperishable, Battling a Sage. After thinking about it, Hanju still decided to deduce who was plotting in advance. 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. South Extreme Heavenly Venerate. Hanju wasn't surprised. He wouldn't have become no matter who it was. The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate was the Chan School's sect master. Hanju could take revenge on him and target the Chan School. This way, his identity would not be easily exposed. It was related to the primordial purple chi. It was impossible for the entire Chan School to meddle with it. It had to be personally arranged by a sage. Hanju put this matter aside. He would target him in the future. Even if all the living beings in the immortal world came to attack the 100-peak immortal river, it was impossible to break through the array formation. Everyone below the sages was an ant. Moreover, the true body of a sage could not enter. Hanju began to cultivate the grand unity aspect and broke through again. He didn't know how many fiend celestial aspects he could cultivate this time. 30 years later, Hanju cultivated the lawless fiend celestial, rainbow light fiend celestial, void fiend celestial, cursing light fiend celestial, stone fiend celestial, space-splitting fiend celestial, time fiend celestial, traversal fiend celestial, mystic desires fiend celestial, fear fiend celestial, chaotic wave fiend celestial, saber fiend celestial, hidden fiend celestial, chi fiend celestial, and heart fiend celestial. A total of 15 fiend celestials. He had accumulated 49 fiend celestials. Hanju's strength increased greatly, and he started the simulation trial. Just like before, he insta-killed all existences below the sages. The only change was that he could resist sages now. He challenged Fuxishan. The 49 fiend celestial Dharma idols attacked together and fought Fuxishan to a draw. The 49 fiend celestial Dharma idols each represented a rule. To be precise, they were all lesser great Tao. When they attacked together, they could destroy the world. It was only a draw. Hanju was very angry. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Even this could not kill a heavenly Tao sage? Then, how could he cross realms to kill enemies in the future? Hanju was very dissatisfied with his combat strength. He began to target Fuxishan crazily and fought continuously. After 10 years, Hanju still didn't succeed in killing him. It had to be said that the heavenly Tao sage was indeed impressive. If you want to kill a sage, you might have to sever the heavenly Tao's providence. Hanju muttered to himself as his eyes flickered. In the battle, he had killed Fuxishan many times, but this fellow quickly revived as if he couldn't be killed. Facing an existence that couldn't be killed at all, even Hanju almost collapsed. If I really face a sage in the future, he might explode and trick me again. Hanju thought of a scene and felt his blood run cold. Fortunately, there was the simulation trial. Otherwise, he would have definitely failed. After Hanju decided to attain the Tao, he wanted to fight with every sage for 100 years. He wanted to find the easiest way to kill the enemy and kill them with one strike. Hanju stood up and stretched as he walked out of the Taoist temple. Everyone prepared to listen to the lecture. Hanju's voice resounded throughout the 100-peak immortal river. All the disciples became excited and flocked to the land of listeners. Even Li Daokong and Li Xianao rushed over immediately. Clearly, they had been looking forward to it for a long time. Outside the 100-peak immortal river, countless living beings were gathered. A huge bird circled high in the sky. The black feathers on its body were shiny, as if they were watered by iron. It had a wingspan of 1,000 feet, and it looked like a hawk. It had 3 cat-like tails. There are so many immortals inside, the 3-tailed giant eagle shouted excitedly. With so many immortal gods in the 100-peak immortal river, the legend about the primordial purple chi was very likely true. Immortal gods? Gasp, why were there so many? Taking human form is indeed considered an immortal god. The hidden sect really exists. What are they doing? I can't sense their aura. It seems that there's a powerful array formation isolating them. The living beings discussed animatedly. There was no lack of Taoists who had transformed, and they came in all forms. There were so many immortals in the hidden sect. How could they break in? At this moment, the ground shook as a terrifying giant 10,000 feet tall rushed over from the end of the horizon. It was unstoppable. The giant was bare-chested, and its muscles looked like they were formed from huge and hard rocks. It was a visual impact. His hair was disheveled as he crashed into the formation of the 100-peak immortal river with unstoppable force. The terrifying waves that stirred up sent thousands of living beings flying as screams of agony filled the air. It's the ancient god of the Khanate stone race, someone exclaimed. His tone was filled with excitement, as if he could see the situation of the 100-peak immortal river formation breaking. The ancient god frowned. He couldn't break through the array formation. He continued to try his best, unwilling to give up. However, no matter how he collided, it was useless. In the 100-peak immortal river, Hanju sat at the peak of the mountain and preached the Tao. Listening to the distant rumbling, he couldn't help but frown. He wasn't the only one. The disciples were also vexed. Hanju raised his right hand. The disciples who were paying attention to him couldn't help but look at it. Swish! A sword chi suddenly shot out from Hanju's right index finger. In an instant, it shot into the distance and exploded the head of the stone race's ancient god. Stones splattered everywhere. Whoosh! All the living beings were shocked. Don't be afraid. The ancient god of the stone race can't be killed. Some living beings shouted, wanting to stabilize the troops' morale. The stone race's ancient god disintegrated at a speed visible to the naked eye. The 10,000-foot-tall body directly collapsed. Hanju continued to preach. A mere deity realm, Ant wanted to withstand his pseudo-sage dermic powers? The undying body was only relative. Compared to the undying existence of the sages, what was the ancient god of the stone race? The ancient god of the stone race was destroyed. The surrounding living beings fell silent. No one dared to rush into the 100-peak immortal river anymore. Hanju could finally talk in peace. The lecture lasted for 50 years. 50 years later, Hanju was about to stand up when Li Daokong asked with a voice transmission, "Sect Master, do you need me to go out and resolve this?" Hanju thought for a moment and said, "Sure. Control your limits. Don't go far, or you'll be discovered by the sages." Li Daokong nodded and flew out. Hanju opened a hole in the Dao field and let him out. Hanju stood up and walked towards the Taoist temple. Along the way, he heard fighting and cries. Zenith Heaven was definitely an invincible existence at this time. The sound of battle also woke the disciples who were still comprehending the Tao. 13th Heaven, Heavenly Race's main hall. Ji Xianxian flicked his sleeve and shouted angrily, "What do you mean? The Buddhist sect wants to declare war on the heavenly race?" The heavenly race members in the hall looked at each other. No one replied first. Seeing their expressions, Ji Xianxian was furious. The seemingly glorious heavenly race was actually completely unstable. He, the heavenly ancestor, was completely suppressed. Almost all the experts of the heavenly race had their own factions. There were even Buddhist cultivators he hated now. The heavenly god general stood up and said, "I'm willing to teach the Buddhist sect a lesson." Ji Xianxian's anger eased as he said, "We still have to discuss this matter. The Buddhist sect openly provoked the prestige of the heavenly race. Who else is behind this? It's worth investigating." By the way, all of you have heard the rumors about the primordial purple chi. Now all the Providence sects are said to possess primordial purple chi. I don't believe it. How can there be so many opportunities to attain the Tao? Only one sage has died. What do you think of the devils? Devil race. All the heavenly race members in the hall were moved, and the atmosphere became solemn. Chapter 500 Perfect Sage, Strongest Tao Attainment Method. Chapter 500 Perfect Sage, Strongest Tao Attainment Method. Heavenly Ancestor, why did you mention the devil race? The devil race is the cultivator's mortal enemy. A white-haired old Taoist stood up. His words broke the silence, attracting the support of the other heavenly race mighty figures. Speaking of the devils, they gritted their teeth. Ji Xianxian frowned. The hall fell into chaos. Other than Ji Xianxian, everyone was denouncing the sins of the devils. After a long while, after everyone was silent, Ji Xianxian slowly asked, I want to ask, what grudge do you have with the devil race? Don't mention the ancient legends, just talk about yourselves. The heavenly race mighty figures looked at each other. They didn't follow Ji Xianxian's words but doubted in their hearts. Had the heavenly ancestor been possessed by the devils? Or was his Tao heart deceived? It was so outrageous. Even the heavenly god general looked at Ji Xianxian differently. Facing his subordinates' strange gazes, Ji Xianxian almost died of anger. These people were really impossible to communicate with. Ji Xianxian suppressed his anger and shook his head. He waved his hand to signal everyone to leave. 30 years passed quickly after Han Ju finished his lecture. Under Li Daokong's domineering attack, the living beings who wanted to fight for the primordial purple chi were chased away. The remaining were low-level living beings who indicated that they had no ill intentions. After that battle, the hidden sect's reputation spread again. The news of Li Daokong joining the hidden sect quickly spread throughout the immortal world. The news that the eldest disciple of the human school had joined the hidden sect caused the immortal world to criticize him. The hidden sect was completely famous. It was getting closer and closer to becoming a first-rate overlord force in the immortal world. At least, that was how it was famous. On this day, Han Ju cursed Sage Fated Secrets. Although he had just broken through, he didn't spend a large amount of his lifespan on him. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. After the simulation trial, Han Ju felt that the possibility of cursing a sage to death was almost zero. It was fine to mess with him. He should save his lifespan in the future and not waste it. Han Ju wasn't far from attaining the Tao. When the time came, he would personally kill Sage Fated Secrets. He stood up and stretched. At this moment, the strange deity rushed in and stopped in front of him. It wandered around as if it was in a hurry. Han Ju communicated with it. You said you want to go out? Han Ju frowned and asked. The strange deity nodded. Although it couldn't speak and its expression could not be seen, it accurately displayed a pitiful appearance. Han Ju subconsciously wanted to reject, but the strange deity rarely expressed such strong intentions. Moreover, even if he let this fellow out, others wouldn't be able to see it. Even Li Daokong couldn't spy on the strange deity. The strange deity passed by Li Daokong's side. Although Li Daokong frowned, he did not notice anything. What are you going to do outside? The hands of the strange deity kept shaking. Han Ju couldn't understand it at all, and could only rely on his telepathy. After all, they had fused a long time ago. It wanted to go out because something outside was attracting it. It wanted to go and take a look. Han Ju secretly used the derivation function. What attracted it? 2 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Misfortune, resentment, killing intent, and negative karma. Han Ju frowned and continued to ask, is a sage plotting against it? 3 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. No, Han Ju was relieved. He looked at the strange deity and said, come back soon. Don't harm the living beings. The strange deity nodded desperately. Han Ju waved his hand and sent it out. The strange deity also had its own way of becoming stronger. Other than relying on Han Ju, it didn't need to cultivate at all, so there was no point in keeping it to cultivate. Its departure did not cause any commotion in the hidden sect because other than Hanju, no one else knew of its existence, even if it often wandered in the 100-peak immortal river. After stretching, Hanju sat on the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus again, and began to comprehend the Great Tao cultivation technique, the primordial chaos reincarnation Great Tao. The primordial chaos reincarnation Great Tao recorded several methods to attain the Tao. The worst was to rely on the primordial purple qi to attain the Tao. Therefore, the primordial purple qi was actually the key to the heavenly Tao. Only by obtaining this key could one open the heavenly Tao and obtain its providence. By relying on the power of the heavenly Tao, one could become a sage. If the heavenly Tao wasn't destroyed, it would be very difficult for the heavenly Tao sage to die, unless they encountered the immeasurable calamity. Hanju naturally couldn't take this path. He didn't want to tie his life to the heavenly Tao. He wanted to walk on the path to the strongest Tao attainment method. Use strength to attain the Tao. He could rely on his great dharmic powers to forcefully break through the realm shackles and reach the undying realm. The so-called using strength to attain the Tao meant cultivating a great Tao. Hanju's great Tao of extreme origin was equivalent to the gathering of 3,000 great Tao. If he successfully attained the Tao, he felt that he would definitely be the most perfect sage. He would also be the strongest sage. What Hanju wanted to do now was to fuse the great Tao of extreme origin with his body and soul. He would become the great Tao, and not merely control its power. In theory, it was very simple. In fact, it was very difficult. His body could hardly withstand the power of the great Tao. However, Hanju had the stellar primordial body. Cultivating it was easier than cultivating the heavenly Tao life form. Hanju couldn't predict when he would attain the Tao for the time being, but he would definitely be able to. At the edge of the 100-peak immortal river, Hanzuaqian stood at the foot of the hill, and 10 steps away stood the three immortals. These 10 steps were the isolation area of the Tao field array formation. It was invisible and colorless. It indeed existed. Eaglehead Immortal said carefully, "Senior, we've investigated the matter you asked us to investigate. The most talented person in the nearby area should be the long-arm ape. This long-arm ape is one of the 4 chaotic monkeys. It's said that in the primordial era, the 4 chaotic monkeys were extraordinary existences. There was once a long-arm ape that made even sages sigh in admiration." Hanzuaqian raised his eyebrows. "What's his cultivation level?" "Emperor Realm. Help me recruit him. All of you serve me well. When the hidden sect recruits disciples again, I can help you plead on your behalf." "Thank you, Senior," the three immortals said in surprise. They knelt down and kowtowed to Hanzuaqian. Hanzuaqian waved his hand indifferently, and the three immortals left. Seeing them leave, Hanzuaqian couldn't help but sigh. "Even if I pretend, I'm still far inferior to Grandmaster. Perhaps I'm lacking light behind my back?" Hanzuaqian muttered to himself, envy appearing in his eyes. He yearned for the sun and moon yin-yang protection behind Hanju the most. It was too impressive. Hanzuaqian had never seen an existence stronger than Hanju. Even his grand disciple felt suffocated every time he faced him. Then Hanzuaqian turned around and prepared to leave. "Young friend." An old voice floated over. Hanzuaqian turned around. A stooped figure emerged from the ground. He had white hair and a youthful face. He held a walking stick and had a benevolent expression. Hanzuaqian raised his eyebrows, seemingly surprised that the other party had come out of the ground. The old man smiled and said, "I'm the earth god of the 100-peak immortal river. I was sent by the heavenly race. Can you introduce me to the sect master of the hidden sect?" Chapter 501 Number of Deity Realm Existences in the Hidden Sect, Long-Arm Ape Race. Chapter 501 Number of Deity Realm Existences in the Hidden Sect, Long-Arm Ape Race, Earth God? Heavenly Race. Hanzuaqian frowned. His expression changed slightly as he muttered to himself. The old man smiled and said, "That's right, it's the Earth God appointed by the heavenly race. It's also your blessing that I came to the 100-peak immortal river." "Blessing?" Hanzuaqian was immediately furious and scolded. "Screw off. Are you even worthy?" His language was inherited from Hanju. He spoke like him and cursed similarly. The reason why he was moved just now was that he had never heard of the heavenly race. Most of the living beings did not know about the high and mighty heavenly race, and the disciples of the hidden sect who knew about it had a huge difference in seniority with Han Zuetian. They couldn't be bothered to acknowledge him, let alone talk about the current immortal world. The Earth God was stunned. He didn't expect Han Zuetian to suddenly fall out with him. Immediately after, his old face turned red. He pointed at him and said with a trembling voice, "You, how impudent." Han Zuetian cursed. "Get lost. Are you qualified to be our hidden sect's blessing? Do you believe that I'll call for help?" The Earth God trembled in anger, but he was really afraid that Han Zuetian would call for help. The hidden sect was famous for its viciousness. If not for the orders of the heavenly race, he wouldn't dare to come. He stomped his feet and tunneled underground, disappearing. Han Zuetian snorted disdainfully. Han Zuetian didn't spread the news of the Earth God in the hidden sect. The disciples did not know about it. Han Ju was still cultivating in seclusion. Ever since he reached the perfected pseudo-sage realm, Han Ju had been excited about cultivation. He wanted to reach the sage realm as soon as possible. Time passed. Everything changed. When he looked back, it was as if everything happened in an instant. 1,500 years passed. Han Ju was still far from attaining the Tao, but he was much stronger than before. On this day, he explained the great Tao to the hidden sect again. After so many lectures, without the hidden sect expanding, all the disciples had already embarked on the cultivation path of the great Tao of extreme origin. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. The great Tao of extreme origin contained extremely great power. Even Li Daokong, who was already a pseudo-sage, could easily enter the Tao. After so many years of cultivation, his Tao fruit had already transformed into the Tao fruit of the great Tao of extreme origin. The disciple Han Ju looked forward to the most now was Li Daokong. His expectations for him had already surpassed Tao Sovereign, Li Yao, Zhao Xianyuan and the others. Of course, he could only hide this thought in his heart and not say it out loud. After all, he thought highly of every disciple. Han Ju was about to return to the Taoist temple when he suddenly felt something. He raised his hand and waved it, summoning the strange deity from outside the Tao field. After so many years, the strange deity had indeed become much stronger. Han Ju could sense that the power it contained was enough to destroy an ordinary pseudo-sage. What had this fellow done? The strange deity was clearly very excited to see Han Ju again. It stuck to him and rubbed against him. Han Ju played with it for a while and let it move around. The current strange deity could already control his strength and would not threaten the other living beings in the hidden sect. Just as he returned to the Taoist temple, Han Ju received a dream from a sage. Sect Master Tianju sent you a dream. Do you accept it? Ignore. I want to see if you're as anxious as Emperor Shao and Qiu Shilai. Han Ju thought to himself and meditated. Indeed, not all sages were as shameless as Qiu Shilai. Sect Master Tianju only visited once in his dreams. Several months later, Fang Liang sent you a dream. Do you accept it? Fang Liang? Han Ju opened his eyes with a strange expression. In the past, it was always sages who visited him in his dreams. When did Fang Liang learn this ability? After thinking about it, Han Ju chose to accept it. After entering the dream, Han Ju could clearly sense the structure of the dream. It was extremely weak, and he could shatter the dream with a thought. Fang Liang was still very weak. The dream place was the Numinous Palace. Fang Liang saw Han Ju and immediately walked over to bow. The sun and moon yin-yang protection behind Han Ju emitted a divine light, preventing Fang Liang from seeing his expression. Fang Liang said, I rashly disturbed Grandmaster because of something important. Han Ju replied, Oh, Ji Xianxian has been suppressed. The heavenly race has secretly changed to a new master. More than 1,000 years ago, the heavenly race once sent the Earth God to the 100-peak immortal river. In the end, he was humiliated. Recently, the heavenly race has been preparing to deal with the 100-peak immortal river. Ji Xianxian asked me to tell you about this. That's it. Han Ju was disdainful. He already treated sages as his enemies. Who dared to find trouble with him? It wasn't that Hanju was arrogant, but that he was so strong. Feng Liang said, "Grandmaster, don't be careless. The heavenly race is mixed with all sorts of people, and involves too many factions. Not only that, but recently, someone from the human race has also been stirring up rumors about the hidden sect. They say that the hidden sect once harmed the human race, and seem to want to defame the hidden sect as the devil race." Hanju shook his head and said, "You don't have to worry about the hidden sect. You've been away for too long, and don't know the situation anymore." Upon hearing that, Feng Liang asked carefully, "May I know how many deity realm experts the hidden sect has?" The current Feng Liang was already a deity realm existence. If not for the heavenly court's defeat in the calamity, his cultivation would not have increased. Hanju hesitated for a moment and then said, "More than you think." After all, Feng Liang came from the hidden sect, and had helped the hidden sect disciples in the heavenly court many times. Hanju still hoped that he could repent and return to the sect to cultivate. Although Feng Liang was already the Dao ancestor's successor, Zhou Fan was still a Dharma idol of the seven Dao sage. Hanju wasn't afraid of people with powerful backgrounds entering the hidden sect. It was fine as long as it was not the true body of a sage. Feng Liang was silent. He clenched his fists in his sleeves. He wanted to say that he would return to the hidden sect, but the words were stuck in his throat and difficult to say. Hanju didn't understand what he was worried about and said meaningfully, "As long as you want to return, come back at any time. You don't have to worry about any trouble. Don't wait until you're standing opposite the hidden sect before you want to return. At that time, don't blame Grandmaster for being heartless." Feng Liang took a deep breath. He knew that Hanju was not joking. Hanju treated him very well, but he was never merciful to enemies. Back in the mortal world, Hanju, who was only a mortal, dared to challenge the heavenly court. The current Hanju was naturally not afraid of sages. Feng Liang was in a dilemma. Hanju waved his hand and shattered the dream, leaving only one sentence. "If you don't return now, no one in the hidden sect will remember you." His consciousness returned to the Taoist temple. Hanju didn't think too much and continued cultivating. It was his decision whether Feng Liang would return. Hanju had already done what he could. He couldn't force Feng Liang to return. In that case, would he be the grandmaster or an actual father? On that day, Li Xian'ao came to visit him. Hanju let him enter the Taoist temple. Li Xian'ao came in front of him and bowed. "Sect master, I want to take in a disciple. It's one of the 4 chaotic monkeys, the long-arm ape. He's talented, and I'm confident that I can teach him to become a zenith heaven, or even stronger. By the way, sect master, there might be an entire race of long-arm apes. I have a bold thought." "Long-arm ape?" Hanju raised his eyebrows. He couldn't help but think of Journey to the West. This monkey was not only in the Journey to the West, but also in the Investiture of the Gods. Chapter 502 Heavenly Races Power Struggle. Hanju's Tao Companion. Chapter 502 Heavenly Races Power Struggle. Hanju's Tao Companion, the long-arm ape race. There were indeed many legends about the 4 chaotic monkeys. Hanju wouldn't question their potential, but he didn't expect them to have a race. Hanju narrowed his eyes and asked, "What do you think?" Li Xian'ao adjusted his emotions and said, "There's not much point in directly taking in the long-arm ape race into the hidden sect. We need to have hidden forces outside. This is the case for the human school. Almost all the major races have their own subsidiary forces. On the surface, only me and Senior Brother will appear. With the immeasurable calamity activated, even if Senior Brother and I enter the calamity, all living beings will not think that the human school can threaten the heavenly Tao. However, the truth is that the human school has the most cultivators in the heavenly race. Among the sages, the human school is the greatest winner." Hanju understood what he meant. He felt that there was no need, but if the disciples wanted to find something to do, it was fine. He thought for a moment and said, "Choose a long-arm ape to enter the hidden sect. You can persuade him later." Li Xian'ao was overjoyed. He hurriedly bowed and left. Hanju wasn't worried that he would play tricks. After all, it was a 6-star favorability. Besides, he was already a cultivator of the great Tao of extreme origin, and was tied to him. 74 years later, in the Taoist temple, Hanju was cultivating. I'm the war god of the heavenly race, the heavenly god general. I summon all living beings in the immortal world, and recruit immortals and gods for the heavenly race. I will open up the myriad worlds in the universe. Anyone who has reached the grand unity golden immortal realm can come to the 13th heaven to see me and seek godhood. This voice resounded through the immortal world like a thunderclap. Hanju opened his eyes with a strange expression. The heavenly race was recruiting immortal gods. They were trying to eradicate the heavenly court. From now on, all living beings would think that the heavenly race represented the immortal gods. What was the use of the heavenly court? When the immortals of the heavenly court decreased, and only Feng Liang was left alone, it would probably be the time of his death. Hanju couldn't help but think of the heavenly emperor. The heavenly emperor had entrusted him to help when the heavenly court was in danger. However, this was not the most difficult time for the heavenly court. Hanju didn't dare to act recklessly before attaining the Tao. You guys can continue dancing. When I become a sage, I'll settle all the scores. Hanju snorted. The heavenly race also wanted to scheme against him, and now they were plotting against the heavenly court. He had to deal with them in the future. Hanju suddenly thought of his first Tao companion, Xian Qingjun, who was also in the heavenly race. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. On a whim, he used the dark nightmare on her. The two of them entered the dream. The mountains were clear, and the rivers were beautiful. The blue sky was filled with white clouds. A cool breeze blew through the forest, making one's heart flutter. Hanju saw Xian Qingjun again. Compared to 20,000 years ago, she had changed greatly. She wore a purple dress and had a dignified posture. Her beautiful face was extremely cold, and her eyes were disdainful. The first time they met, she was still pretending to be mediocre. Xian Qingjun saw Hanju and couldn't help but become vigilant. The divine light of the sun and moon yin-yang protection covered Hanju's face, preventing her from seeing clearly. She was cultivating when she was suddenly pulled into a dream, making her subconsciously vigilant. Soon, she seemed to have thought of something and asked carefully, Hanju. Hanju smiled and said, How have you been? The last time they met was in a dream, 10,000 years ago. At this age, he couldn't help but sigh when he saw an old friend. It was mainly because Hanju had not seen many people in his life. If one died, it was a significant decrease. Xian Qingjun smiled and sized him up. I'm good. You look better. You should be the one who created the hidden sect, right? Hanju was not surprised. He could no longer hide his identity, especially to those who knew him. That's right. How are you doing in the heavenly race? Hanju asked. He remembered that she had given him cultivation resources before. Xian Qingjun said, I managed to get a god position, but I'm only fishing in troubled waters. I don't have any real power. By the way, the heavenly race might be targeting the 100-peak immortal river recently. Be careful. Hanju said, I already know. I haven't come to visit you for a long time. If you're unhappy in the heavenly race, you can come and seek refuge with me at any time. As for the heavenly race's plot, even a pseudo-sage can't barge in. It's impossible for the heavenly race to succeed. Xian Qingjun smiled. Sure, I'm willing to join the hidden sect. So straightforward. Hanju was stunned. Xian Qingjun said, I like the atmosphere of the hidden sect. I didn't agree before because I wanted to fight for providence. Now that the providence has been obtained, if you let me enter the hidden sect, I'll naturally do it. However, before I come, I want to obtain something for you. What is it? You will know when the time comes. It will definitely be a surprise. All right. Hanju smiled and agreed. What? Could she possibly bring the primordial purple qi to seek refuge with him? Hanju started to reminisce with Xian Qingjun and listened to her talk about her experiences over the years. Xian Qingjun said that because of Hanju, she also liked to cultivate diligently. After the calamity ended, she rarely went out. However, the few times she went out were very exciting. They could all be written as adventures. Hanju also listened with relish. The two of them chatted for a long time. The dream ended. Hanju's consciousness returned to reality. From his conversation with Xian Qingjun, he could tell that she was very dissatisfied with the heavenly race. She wasn't the only one. There were also many conflicts within the heavenly race. The main reason was that the heavenly race was too chaotic and had too much internal competition. With that, the emperor took turns to sit. Ji Xianxian had already completely become a puppet. Power often changed, making the loose immortals of the heavenly race feel that something was wrong. If this continued, the heavenly race would definitely collapse. It was normal for Xian Qingjun to want to leave. Hanju thought silently. Should I make the heavenly race fight among themselves? Xian Qingjun had mentioned that the person in charge recently was a person called Zhou Quan. His background was mysterious, and she did not know which sect he came from. He had a wide network. Fuck. Hanju decided to curse Zhou Quan and stir up a conflict among the heavenly race to prevent them from always staring at the 100-peak immortal river. But he couldn't curse now. Wait. 50 years later, Hanju had just finished cursing sage-fated secrets and started cursing the heavenly race's Zhou Quan. He was very careful, afraid that he would accidentally curse Zhou Quan to death. He only cursed for a day before stopping. He felt that it was enough. Zhou Quan would definitely be frightened to death. Hanju was in a good mood. He put down the Book of Misfortune and continued cultivating. Just as he had expected, the heavenly race was in chaos. Through the emails, Hanju saw the Divine General and Ji Xianxian being attacked one after another. It was really tragic. Half a month later, Li Xianao came and said that the long-arm ape he had chosen was already waiting outside the 100-peak immortal river. Hanju directly moved him into the Dao field and let Li Xianao entertain him himself. As for meeting the long-arm ape, Hanju didn't have any thoughts for the time being. His cultivation was different now, and his identity was also different. How could he meet anyone casually? On the mountains and rivers, Li Xianao and the long-arm ape stepped on the white clouds as they advanced. The long-arm ape was a human-shaped monkey with a burly figure. It scratched its ears and cheeks and kept looking around, full of curiosity about the 100-peak immortal river. Li Xianao instructed. In the 100-peak immortal river, don't cause conflict with anyone. Otherwise, I won't be able to protect you. The long-arm ape asked curiously, how many immortals in the 100-peak immortal river are stronger than you? Chapter 503 10,000 Deity Realm Experts. Resolution of the Three Immortals. Chapter 503 10,000 Deity Realm Experts. Resolution of the Three Immortals. Don't worry about this question. You only need to know that the sect master of the hidden sect is the strongest existence. Don't cause trouble. He will keep an eye on you. Li Xianao instructed. The four chaotic monkeys were known to be ruthless. The long-arm ape was the overlord of a mountain before. It was domineering. Li Xianao was worried that it couldn't control its personality. Hearing this, the long-arm ape nodded desperately. He wasn't stupid. Before he knew Li Xianao, he had heard of the 100-peak immortal river. He was already very happy to be able to join the hidden sect. Just like that, Li Xianao accepted the long-arm ape as his disciple. He brought it around the 100-peak immortal river and let the hidden sect disciples meet it. The disciples of the hidden sect did not have a good impression of the long-arm ape. It was only because this fellow was not good-looking, and they were busy cultivating and had no time to interact. The addition of the long-arm ape did not affect the cultivation culture of the hidden sect. The 100-peak immortal river was still silent. Time flew. 400 years passed. Hanju cursed Zhou Quan for another day. Liu Bei suddenly brought a Qilin to visit. It was Su Lin, who had the bloodline of the Qilin king. Su Lin had already reached the Grand Unity Golden Immortal Realm. The man and the Qilin knelt in front of Hanju. Su Lin had yet to transform. His figure was like a tiger, and was slightly smaller than before. He was probably controlling his body size. Hanju stared at him. That gaze brought great pressure to Su Lin, making him not dare to look up. Liu Bei was the first to speak. Master, what do you plan to do next? Hanju said. You can leave first. I'll teach him for a period of time. Liu Bei nodded and left. Su Lin shivered, not knowing what to think. Hanju said, Don't be nervous. Cultivate next to me. Cultivate according to the previous cultivation method. This is not a test. He raised his hand and waved, causing a mat to appear beside him. Immediately after, Hanju raised his finger and pointed at Su Lin, directly turning him into a human. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Su Lin transformed into a young man with an ordinary appearance, an ordinary figure, and a stunned expression. Seeing Hanju close his eyes, although he was puzzled, he could only suppress it and enter his cultivation state. At first, Su Lin was very nervous, but as time passed, his nervousness was also wiped away. 100 years passed. Su Lin walked out of the Taoist temple. The sunlight shone on him, making him feel as if a lifetime had passed. He took a deep breath and clenched his fists. His eyes became extremely confident and his back straightened, as expected of the master of the hidden sect. This is the great Tao. Su Lin was excited. He quickened his pace and prepared to return to cultivate diligently. Not long after he left, Li Xian'eo came to the Taoist temple and wanted to visit Hanju. What is it? Hanju didn't let him in and asked directly. Li Xian'eo said, Sect Master Long-Arm Ape. You're in charge of teaching and can also teach the great Tao yourself. Hanju's voice floated out, causing Li Xian'eo to be overjoyed. He wanted to teach the great Tao to the Long-Arm Ape, thinking that he had to seek Hanju's approval first. Li Xian'eo bowed and left. Hanju covered the Tao field with his divine sense and observed the Nether race. The Nether race was the threshold of the hidden sect. Their potential was high, but they were not top-notch. Now the 10,000 Nether race members had already begun to break through to the deity realm. When they stepped into the deity realm, the strength of the hidden sect would increase again. Hanju couldn't help but look at the second-generation disciples. He called Sun Chang'an over. As his third disciple, Sun Chang'an's cultivation was inferior to that of a third-generation disciple. However, under the powerful torrent of the hidden sect, he could barely keep up with the main group. However, he was only a rank 4 immortal emperor now. How pathetic. Sun Chang'an knelt in front of Hanju. He wasn't nervous when facing him. After all, they had been together for more than 20,000 years. Hanju asked, Are you satisfied with your cultivation? Sun Chang'an frowned and hesitated for a moment before saying, If I say that I'm satisfied, actually, I'm not that satisfied. But I'm not that unsatisfied either. Hanju cursed silently. What ugly words from an ugly monk. Although Sun Chang'an was no longer ugly, or even rather handsome, his nickname was still Ugly Monk. Hanju cursed. Speak normally. Sun Chang'an shivered and said, It means that I can become stronger. It doesn't matter if I can't. In any case, I've always been in the hidden sect. Even if I don't have any enemies, I still have your protection. Then, don't you want to protect me? Master, you're so strong. How can I chase after you? Even if you let Li Daokong say this, can he be confident? Sun Chang'an was very innocent and aggrieved. Hanju remained silent. That made sense. Hanju didn't want the day to really need his disciples' protection. But he wouldn't allow his disciples to slack off. I will personally preach the Tao to you. In 5,000 years, you must reach the rank 9 immortal emperor realm. Hanju snorted. Sun Chang'an's expression collapsed. Crossing that many realms in 5,000 years? Impossible. He had already stepped into the emperor realm for more than 10,000 years, and was only a rank 4 immortal emperor. Hanju ignored Sun Chang'an and started to preach. In the forest a stone tower stood. In the tower, the 3 immortals of Chu Jun were napping in boredom. Snakehead Immortal said weakly, Brother, how long do we have to wait? Those who came after the long-arm ape have already entered the hidden sect. How long do we have to wait? He repeated it twice, clearly confused. Eaglehead Immortal snorted. Continue waiting. Those with ambitions will succeed. This is what a mighty figure who taught me said. The third great immortal did not speak. At this moment, A voice sounded. Are you the three immortals of Chu Jun? The three immortals immediately sat up and saw the Earth God, who had confronted Han Zuetian. He held his head high and said proudly, I'm the envoy sent by the heavenly race to confer the title of Earth God to you three. Aren't you going to kneel down and receive the title? The three immortals were stunned, and they looked at each other. Eaglehead Immortal was the first to recover. He cursed. Get lost. The other two immortals also revealed fierce expressions. The Earth God was stunned. Can't I give you the 100-peak Immortal River? Are you worried about the hidden sect? Don't worry, the heavenly race will soon move it away. At that time, Eaglehead Immortal attacked directly. His right hand transformed into an eagle claw and quickly stretched out, shooting straight at the Earth God's throat. The Earth God was shocked and immediately fled. In an instant, he arrived thousands of kilometers away. Then he emerged from the ground and cursed. Three fools. I gave you a chance, but you're useless. At this moment, a demonic wind blew. Where are you running to? Killing him will definitely be a contribution to the 100-peak Immortal River. Ha ha ha, this is a rare opportunity. The three immortals' voices floated over. They were very excited. Earth God vomited blood. He didn't understand why these three dogs were so loyal to the hidden sect when they were not accepted by the 100-peak Immortal River. Not having time to think, he continued to escape. I'm the Earth God. Can the three of you capture me? Deep underground, the Earth God thought disdainfully as he traveled quickly. Several days later, the three immortals appeared near the 100-peak Immortal River. Eaglehead Immortal waved his sleeve, and the Earth God tied up by the golden rope was thrown to the ground. He was covered in dust and had disheveled hair, looking extremely pathetic. Eaglehead Immortal shouted, Seniors of the hidden sect, we have caught a spy sent by the heavenly race. He wants to harm the hidden sect. Chapter 504 Primordial Purple Chi appears, New King of Hell. Chapter 504 Primordial Purple Chi appears. New King of Hell. The three immortals shouted for a long time before a hidden sect disciple finally flew over. It was the white-robed man who had warned them previously. He was a transformed life form under Han Zuetian and had a grand unity golden immortal cultivation. The white-robed man said impatiently, This fellow? He can threaten the hidden sect. If not for the fact that the three immortals were sincere, the white-robed man wouldn't have bothered to come out. Eaglehead Immortal said shamelessly, He's the god of the heavenly race and wants to confer us the title of Earth God. He said that in the future, the heavenly race will expel the hidden sect and let us be Earth gods. The Earth God wanted to say something, but he couldn't make a sound. The white-robed man frowned. Wait for me. He turned around and left. Soon, Han Zuetian and Li Xianeo arrived. Li Xianeo sized up the Earth God and said, It's indeed the god of the heavenly race. He didn't know the Earth God, but he was also from the heavenly race and could distinguish auras and providence. Han Zuetian looked at the three immortals and said, I know you. You're indeed sincere. Don't worry. I will mention you to Grandmaster. Hearing this, the three immortals were pleasantly surprised and quickly thanked him. Han Zuetian looked at Li Xianeo and asked, What should we do with this Earth God? Li Xianeo said calmly, Kill him. The three of you attack now. The Earth God's expression changed drastically. Without another word, Eaglehead Immortal slapped his palm on the top of the Earth God's head, sucking his soul out. Snakehead Immortal swallowed the Earth God's body. Eaglehead Immortal threw the Earth God's soul to his third brother, the Heavenly Immortal. The Heavenly Immortal's eyes emitted a strange light that extinguished the Earth God's soul. Li Xianeo raised his eyebrows in surprise. Unexpectedly, the three immortals had their own abilities. The reason why he asked them to kill the Earth God now was to test them. Their decisiveness proved that they were indeed on the hidden sect's side. Li Xianeo smiled in satisfaction. You have great vision. Wait for a bit. The three immortals quickly thanked him. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. Li Xianeo and Han Zuetian left. In the sky, Li Xianeo said, These three are not bad. If you can take them in, take care of them in the future. They will become your right-hand men. Han Zuetian nodded. That day, Li Xian'ao went to visit Hanju and talked about this. Hanju thought for a moment, and moved the three immortals into the Dao field, letting Li Xian'ao receive them. After Li Xian'ao left, Hanju's expression became strange. Why did this fellow become a talent in internal affairs? He had always thought that Li Xian'ao was a brute. He didn't expect that after joining the hidden sect, he would be more passionate about all sorts of planning and decision-making. Hanju shook his head and laughed. In any case, Li Xian'ao's favorability towards him was 6 stars. He didn't have to worry. Once his favorability decreased, even if only by half a star, Hanju would still give him a warning. There was no hour measuring in the immortal world. Other than a few people, all living beings wouldn't calculate time. The world was vast and filled with spirit qi. As long as one didn't provoke the enemy, one could live for a long time. Under such circumstances, time became unimportant. Hanju was one of the few people who liked to pay attention to time. After all, he had the system, and had already developed the habit of looking at lifespan. As years passed, the situation in the immortal world gradually changed. This was the first time the number of connate lifeforms erupted. After their cultivation levels increased, they began to consider reproducing. Now, in the immortal world, there were the 7 famous major factions: Jia school, Chan school, human school, Buddhist sect, heavenly race, ancient race, and hidden sect. Although ancient fiendish Yin had perished, the ancient race had indeed survived tenaciously, and even became stronger. This was because they were the first force formed by connate lifeforms. Most living beings acknowledged the ancient race as their race. Just like that, 1,200 years passed. That day, Hanju was cultivating. Detected that the primordial purple qi has descended into the immortal world. You have the following choices. 1. Exit seclusion immediately and fight for the primordial purple qi. You can obtain a great Dao fragment and a mystical power inheritance. 2. Continue cultivating and stay away from trouble. You can obtain a great Dao fragment and a supreme treasure. Primordial purple qi. Hanju was stunned. Didn't Nuwa say that she would keep it for him? Could it be another primordial purple qi? Hanju silently chose the second option. You choose to continue cultivating and obtain a great Dao fragment and a supreme treasure. Congratulations on obtaining the Heavenly Dao Numinous Treasure Heavenly Origin Bracelet. Heavenly Origin Bracelet. Heavenly Dao Numinous Treasure. It is extremely hard and can hit the soul. It can encircle a world. Heavenly Dao Numinous Treasure was not bad. Hanju silently took out the Heavenly Origin Bracelet and started to make it recognize him as its owner. As for Dharma treasures, the more the better, even if they were useless now. For example, in the investiture of the gods, the 3 pure ones would often give their disciples Dharma treasures and let them fight. It was quite impressive. However, Hanju would never hand over his strongest Dharma treasures. Only those that he did not like could be given to his disciples. Several days later, the Dharma treasure successfully recognized him as its owner. Hanju directly put it on his right wrist. He continued cultivating and checked his emails. Your good friend Ji Xianxian has obtained a pseudo-sage divine arm. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Pan Xian was attacked by a human school cultivator, X392. Your Dao companion Xian Qingjun has obtained the primordial purple qi. Her providence has increased greatly. Your good friend Empress Hutu established the netherworld. Your good friend Jiang Dugu was attacked by the ancient master of calamity and was severely injured. Your good friend Heavenly Emperor has become a pseudo-sage. Your disciple Yang Tiandong has become the king of hell. This did not seem to be the first time Ji Xianxian had fused with limbs. What was he doing? From the looks of it, he seemed to be turning into a heavenly Dao villain. Hanju was stunned when he saw Xian Qingjun obtain the primordial purple qi. So it was because of her that the primordial purple qi descended into the immortal world. How did she do it? The heavenly emperor had actually become a pseudo-sage. Hanju only sighed and was not shocked. Ever since he went to the deity realm of the ruins of End, the heavenly emperor had endless opportunities. He was a zenith heaven cultivator himself, so it was not strange for him to become a pseudo-sage. Yang Tiandong became the king of hell. Empress Hutu was rather impressive. She really knew how to act in order to tie Hanju to her. On the surface, Empress Hutu was expressing her goodwill to Hanju, so he couldn't say anything. Yang Tiandong died in the previous calamity and was protected by Qiu Shilai. His soul had always been in the netherworld, but he did not expect Empress Hutu to support him, to become the king of hell. Speaking of his eldest disciple, Hanju sighed. What a pity. Hanju shook his head and laughed. He believed that one day, Empress Hutu would make Yang Tiandong find him. At that time, he would directly purify him. Thinking of absolute purification, Hanju stood up and prepared to purify all the new disciples of the hidden sect, just in case. Even Li Daokong and Li Xianao had to be purified. Just like that, Hanju wandered around the 100-peak immortal river, causing a commotion in the entire sect. The disciples wanted to see him, but were afraid of meeting him. Hanju used small talk to purify them secretly one by one. The lifespan consumed was not worth mentioning. It wasn't enough to make a sage go mad. 60 years later, all the disciples had seen Hanju before. Not only did their reverence for him not decrease, but it also increased. Hanju's aura was too strong. In addition to the sun and moon yin-yang protection, even if they had chatted, they didn't know his true appearance. Mysterious, powerful. This was Hanju's image in the hearts of the unnamed disciples. Chapter 505 Great Tao Purple Qi, Rage of a Sage. Chapter 505 Great Tao Purple Qi, Rage of a Sage. Detected that you are 30,000 years old. You have the following choices. 1. Exit seclusion immediately and preach the Tao to the heavens. You can obtain a Great Tao fragment, a heavenly Tao spirit stone, and a Great Tao Purple Qi. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner and maintain your original intention. You can obtain a Great Tao fragment and a Great Tao Purple Qi. This was a choice that Hanju had triggered when he purified the hidden sect disciples. He didn't have a choice before. He only returned to the Taoist temple and chose again after purifying all the disciples. Now he was 30,044 years old. The reason why he did not immediately make a choice was that the heavenly Tao spirit stone was too attractive. The Book of Misfortune would be a heavenly Tao supreme treasure if it leveled up again. Even if he went out now, as long as he did not leave the area of the heavenly Tao, sages wouldn't be able to do anything to him. However, after calming down, Hanju felt that there was no need. The immortal world was not a Tao field after all. What if the sages had other methods? Hanju adjusted his state of mind and chose the second option. You chose to cultivate in a low-profile manner and obtained a Great Tao fragment and a Great Tao Purple Qi. Great Tao Purple Qi. After fusing, you can obtain the right to become a Great Tao Sage. Great Tao Sage. Hanju smiled. This was exactly what he had guessed. The primordial Purple Qi could allow one to become a heavenly Tao Sage, while the Great Tao Purple Qi could allow one to become a Great Tao Sage. However, it was only a qualification, not absolute. Hanju took out the Great Tao Purple Qi. It was gray and looked like a ball of smoke. He couldn't see any effect. He didn't need to fuse with it, for the time being, so he placed it into the world of stars. He would use it in the future. Hanju could become a sage himself now, and didn't need the Great Tao Purple Qi for the time being. Hanju continued cultivating, and worked hard to attain the Tao. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. He was already at the perfected pseudo-sage realm, but he was still far from attaining the Tao. He needed to cultivate diligently. The process of fusing with the Great Tao was too complicated. Even if he was talented, he had to take it slowly. Hanju was already the first person in history to reach the perfected pseudo-sage realm at 30,000 years old. In the distant past, when the world had just been created, it had taken the Tao ancestor billions of years to reach the zenith heaven realm. That was only a legend. Perhaps it had taken longer. 90 years later, Xian Qingjun came to the 100-peak immortal river and called Hanju's name. When he heard that, he first spent 50 million years of his lifespan. After confirming that there was no danger, Hanju moved her into the Taoist temple. There was no crying scene when the two of them met again. Instead, it was very calm. Xian Qingjun smiled. I'm back. Do you still acknowledge me as your Tao companion? Hanju smiled. Of course. You didn't abandon me. He had already told Xing Hongxian about Xian Qingjun. She didn't find it strange. It was normal to have multiple wives in the immortal world. And even the human emperor had 3,000 concubines. Xian Qingjun smiled even more. She raised her hand, and a purple aura appeared in her palm like a snake. This is the primordial purple qi. It can allow you to become a heavenly Tao sage. I specially brought it to give it to you. Xian Qingjun smiled proudly. This was a supreme treasure that made all the mighty figures go mad. However, Hanju was very calm and said, Which sage? Xian Qingjun replied, The primordial purple qi of the Chan school. It was originally intended to be left to the heavenly race. Not Sage Niwa? Hanju frowned. He suddenly thought of something. Originally, there were 9 heavenly Tao sages. Only Niwa Fuxishan, the south extreme heavenly venerate, Qiu Shilai, sect master Tianju, sage fated secrets, sage Jinan, and Emperor Shao appeared. One sage was always a no-show. Could it be that the sage had long perished? Hanju asked silently. 3 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. They have indeed died. Currently, there are only 7 heavenly Tao sages. Hanju fell into deep thought. There were only 7 heavenly Tao sages, but there should be more, such as Li Muyi and ancestor Shitian. Xian Qingjun asked, What's wrong? Hanju smiled and said, Are you really willing to give it to me? Xian Qingjun nodded. Her eyes were calm and sincere. Hanju immediately took the primordial purple qi and asked about the exact process. Xian Qingjun didn't hide anything. In the heavenly race, she joined the Chan school. Before Hanju dreamed, she learned that the Chan school had the primordial purple qi. Later, the human school's sage, Li Muyi, sent a voice transmission to her, saying that he could help her obtain the primordial purple qi. Xian Qingjun was very puzzled, not understanding why she would be chosen by a sage. Li Muyi said that there was internal strife in the Tao sect. He chose several people, and it depended on who could do it. Then, with Li Muyi's help, she successfully obtained the primordial purple qi and fled back to the immortal world. Hanju understood after hearing this. A sage wanted to set a trap? He secretly purified Xian Qingjun and consumed another 50 million years of his lifespan. The two of them chatted for a while. Hanju personally sent her out and established a Taoist temple at the side. After she returned, Xian Qingjun felt that something had changed. After meeting Hanju, she felt inexplicably refreshed, as if she had lost a lot of burdens. After returning to the Taoist temple, Hanju began to purify the primordial purple qi. He directly consumed 4 billion years of his lifespan. Outside the 33rd heaven, at the human school Tao field, Li Muyi opened his eyes and frowned. What's going on? Why did my sage sense break? Li Muyi pinched his fingers to deduce, and his expression changed. What an impressive move. Li Muyi's eyes flickered and he muttered. Hanju, oh Hanju. Who are you? Who is supporting you from behind? He could deduce that Hanju was only 30,000 years old and didn't have any background in his previous life. In other words, Hanju definitely had a mysterious mighty figure supporting him. His gaze passed through the 33rd heaven and landed on the 100-peak immortal river. It was like a mist that even he, a heavenly Tao sage, could not see through. He had given away a primordial purple qi for nothing. No, he couldn't let this go. Li Mu stood up and left the Tao field. In the Taoist temple, Hanju was meditating and cultivating. Li Muyi's hatred towards you has increased. Current hatred points: 4 stars. The south extreme heavenly venerate has developed hatred towards you. Current hatred points: 3 stars. Sect master Tianju has developed hatred towards you. Current hatred points: 3 stars. Sage Jinan has developed hatred towards you. Current hatred points: 1 star. Hanju opened his eyes and frowned. Why were there suddenly so many hatred point notifications? 0M. Could it be related to the primordial purple qi? That should be the case. You came knocking on my door. Hanju didn't believe that it was a coincidence that Li Mui found Xian Qingjun. This primordial purple qi must have been a trap. It was just that it was completely purified by the system, causing the sages to be unable to continue plotting against him. Thus they became angry. This time, Hanju couldn't leave the Dao field. Hatred towards me? Hate me all you want. I'll kill you all when I attain the Dao. Hanju thought silently. He had always believed that if people didn't offend him, he wouldn't offend them. If people offended him, he would definitely end them. I'll tolerate you for the time being. Hanju adjusted his emotions and continued cultivating at this moment. I'm Sect Master Tianju, the Heavenly Dao Sage. The hidden sect stole the primordial purple qi and violated the heavenly rules. Such sins are punishable by death. All living beings, listen up. Eliminate the hidden sect, and you can obtain heavenly Dao merit. You will be rewarded according to your contributions. Chapter 506 Sage's Scheme, Changes in Providence. Chapter 506 Sage's Scheme, Changes in Providence. Hanju almost wanted to laugh when he heard Sect Master Tianju's voice. As long as I don't go out, it's useless even if all living beings come. Great. Since you dare to fall out with me, don't blame me for being impolite. Hanju thought to himself, and decided to use the Book of Misfortune to punish Sect Master Tianju in the future. He had to at least go mad, even if he wasn't cursed to death. At the same time, all the living beings in the 100-peak Immortal River were discussing this matter. They did not panic, but they were puzzled as to why Sect Master Tianju was slandering them. Hanju cultivated diligently every day. Why would he steal the primordial purple qi? They all felt that the sages were deliberately making things difficult for the hidden sect. After listening to the Dao for so many years, the disciples of the hidden sect trusted Hanju. He wouldn't panic even if the sky collapsed. They wouldn't panic. Because Hanju didn't say anything, the disciples didn't look for him rashly. The hidden sect did not seem to hear this. They discussed for a while before continuing to cultivate. Xian Qingjun came to find him. She wasn't stupid and knew that she had been used by a sage. Hanju comforted her and promised that nothing would happen to the 100-peak Immortal River. She could only be relieved. Another 1,000 years passed. Transformed living beings often wandered around the 100-peak Immortal River, but no one had dared to barge in for the past 1,000 years. The hidden sect was famous for its ferociousness. In addition to Li Daokong's strength, even with the sage's orders, all living beings did not dare to forcefully provoke the hidden sect. As for the primordial purple qi, it was too far away for most living beings. It was so far away that they weren't sure if it was true. In the past 1,000 years, people from the hidden sect had stepped into the deity realm one after another, including Morongqi, Chu Shuren, Hanyu, and the others. As the leader of the Nether race, Hanyu's potential was naturally the strongest. This meant that the Nether race was about to enter the deity realm on a large scale. 10,000 deity realm existences. Since ancient times, even the Jie school, which had 10,000 immortals, might not be so powerful. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Hanju was even more satisfied. It was indeed wise to accept the Nether race. Boom! The mountains in the 100-peak Immortal River shook. A terrifying aura erupted, enveloping the world. The disciples did not panic, because they knew that the other disciples were breaking through Zhao Xianyuan. He had reached the Zenith Heaven realm. The hidden sect had another Zenith Heaven. For a time, there was endless joy in the 100-peak Immortal River. With one more Zenith Heaven, the stronger the hidden sect was, the safer they would be. Every disciple was very happy, especially to the in-name disciples. The hidden sect had hundreds of thousands of in-name disciples. Only a small number of them were taken in as disciples by the orthodox disciples. Although they were all in the 100-peak Immortal River, they were actually in two different worlds. The in-name disciples yearned to become true disciples of the hidden sect. After Zhao Xianyuan became a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal, he began to crazily challenge Li Xianao and Dao Sovereign in the simulation trial. In the previous 100-year competition, he had been suppressed by the two of them. As for Li Daokong, he was a pseudo-sage, so there was no need for him to participate. While the hidden sect's inner circle was active, the sages were very unhappy. Outside the 33rd heaven Sage Dao field, Li Muyi, the south extreme heavenly venerate, Sage Jinan, and sect master Tianju gathered here. Mortals are afraid of the hidden sect. What should we do? The south extreme heavenly venerate asked worriedly. Sect master Tianju frowned. He was the one who had given the order to destroy the hidden sect. Now that all living beings did not listen, he was the most embarrassed. Sage Jinan shook his head. To be honest, why do you insist on provoking him? This child's temperament is like a turtle. He hides somewhere and never goes out. Now the immortal world is his best shelter. If he doesn't leave the immortal world, we can't do anything to him. Our disciples can't break through his Dao field array formation either. We can only shoot ourselves in the foot. Sect Master Tianju snorted unhappily. The south extreme heavenly venerate mocked. Then, why didn't you say so before? Sage Jinan rolled his eyes. Can I persuade you? Li Muyi said. All right, something has happened. In that case, I'll send the 3 pure sacred ancestor to break through the hidden sect's array formation. Gather your disciples and wait in the 100-peak immortal river. The 3 sages' eyes lit up. They were waiting for this sentence. Sage Jinan smiled. The 3 pure sacred ancestor has already gotten rid of Shi Du Dao? Li Muyi said. How can Shi Du Dao be a match for the 3 pure sacred ancestor? Sect Master Tianju stood up and said, That's all. I hope that you won't disappoint us. His tone was mocking. This was all caused by Li Muyi. If he didn't scheme against Hanju, how could he have lost the primordial purple qi? It was strange. Sages plotted against Hanju, but he always had a way to break through. This was the first time they encountered such a situation. Mortals were like ants on a sand table. Sages looked down on them and could see their path from above. Whatever they used could block their path. The ants were tiny and were on the sand table again. From its point of view, it couldn't see the people standing outside the sand table. Every time it encountered something that blocked its way, it could only bypass it. Now the sages had dug a pit behind the small slope in front of the ant. Logically speaking, the ants could not see it at all. But the ant had already gone around before it even went up the slope. It was really strange. Hanju was that ant. The sages were puzzled. No matter how they schemed against him, he could always avoid them, and even make them suffer. It didn't make sense. Another 700 years passed. There were more and more unnamed disciples in the 100-peak immortal river. It wasn't that Hanju had expanded again, but that those unnamed disciples had begun to reproduce. This matter was arranged by Han Zuetian. Ever since he was threatened by sect master Tianju, he felt that there was a risk in recruiting disciples outside. It was better to create more himself. In any case, the 100-peak immortal river was big enough and could contain many living beings. Hanju turned a blind eye to this. The hidden sect needed its own development system. It was indispensable for generations to pass. One day, Li Daokong suddenly came to visit him. Hanju let him enter the Taoist temple. Sect Master, the heavenly Tao's providence has been changing recently. I'm afraid it's not good, Li Daokong said in a low voice. Hanju remembered that he had once stepped into the heavenly Tao directly. Perhaps he really had a way to observe its providence. What's wrong? I suspect that a sage wants to conceal the heavenly secrets and obtain the short period of time to enter the immortal world for himself. To a sage, no matter how short the time is, it's enough to kill the enemy he wants to kill. Li Daokong's expression was very ugly. He meant that the sages wanted to personally deal with the hidden sect. Shocked, Hanju asked cautiously, Can the current heavenly Tao sage break through the array formation of the Tao field? 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Not for the time being. What if all the sages attack together? Yes, but it needs time. The immortal world can't withstand the dermic powers of more than 4 sages. In other words, he was still safe. Hanju cursed silently. Were these sages crazy? Li Daokong asked. Sect Master, what should we do? Hanju said calmly. Cultivate in peace. I'll deal with the sages. Li Daokong was stunned. Although he knew that Hanju was stronger than the heavenly Tao sage, his confident tone convinced him. Such a powerful existence did not fight or hold ambition. How bold and magnanimous was this? Chapter 507 Causing Conflict, Fighting the Strongest in the Immortal World. Chapter 507 Causing Conflict, Fighting the Strongest in the Immortal World. After sending Li Daokong away, Hanju secretly asked, "Does the sage want to enter the immortal world to kill me? 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" Continue? Yes, Hanju frowned. Li Daokong was right. He took out the Book of Misfortune and decided to cause trouble for the sages. He couldn't directly curse Li Muyi or the sages of the Chan school. He had to think of a way to drive them away. Yes, Hanju decided to curse Qiu Shilai. He didn't use much strength and just wanted to scare him. On the surface, he and Qiu Shilai were still on good terms. The other party wouldn't suspect him and would only suspect other sages. Sage Li Muyi wouldn't suspect Hanju. They were thinking of dealing with him. It didn't make sense for Hanju to provoke the other sages now. Just like that, Hanju started cursing Qiu Shilai. 5 days later, his lifespan began to decrease. He would only curse for 5 days. If it was too much, it would be meaningless. He had to at least curse the other party until he was vexed. His lifespan should be consumed between 1 trillion years and 10 trillion years. Hanju felt that it was enough after he had spent 3 trillion years. Outside the 33rd heaven in the Western Hall, Qiu Shilai frowned. He was targeted by the Dark Forbidden Lord again. This time, he clearly felt that the curse power of the Dark Forbidden Lord was far greater than before. Thinking of Sage Fated Secret's miserable state, his heart couldn't help but palpitate. Who is it? Qiu Shilai's eyes flickered. The Dark Forbidden Lord was definitely one of the heavenly Tao sages. This was already a publicly acknowledged fact in the sage circle. Other than them, only Ancestor Shitian was left. It was impossible for him to do such a thing. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. Qiu Shilai began to recall the recent past and felt that Li Muyi was the most likely. Previously, Li Muyi asked him to control Hanju, but he rejected him. However, the karma was too obvious. If he were Li Muyi, he would definitely not curse himself. Li Muyi was famous for being cunning at the sage level. It was not Li Muyi, so it could only be him. Qiu Shilai had always suspected the 3 schools of the Tao sect. The Tao sect was orthodox, and if he wanted to eliminate the sages, he could only use curses. Could it be Sect Master Tianju? No. South Extreme Heavenly Venerate. This fellow couldn't stand him. Sage Jinan was also a possibility. This fellow did not reveal himself and was unfathomable. Qiu Shilai was even more afraid of Sage Jinan because he didn't know his weakness. Although Li Muyi was strong, he cared too much about his reputation and was very easy to target. The curse power was still strengthening. The more Qiu Shilai thought about it, the angrier he became. After spending 3 trillion years of his lifespan, Hanju put down the Book of Misfortune satisfied. He thought for a moment and started cursing Emperor Shao. Apart from the 3 schools of the Tao sect, all of them were cursed. Only then could he divert the trouble and make them suspect the Tao sect. He spent another 3 trillion years. It was settled now. Hanju thought silently and put away the Book of Misfortune. After making arrangements, he heaved a sigh of relief. How wonderful. I hope you can fight soon. Hanju smiled and continued cultivating. Qiu Shilai and Emperor Shao weren't good people and would definitely find trouble with the other sages. The 2 of them thought about it and quickly suspected the sages of the 3 schools. Time passed. Year after year passed. People broke through in the hidden sect every year. The number of unnamed disciples had already exceeded 1 million and was still rapidly increasing. It had to be said that these unnamed disciples' reproduction ability was very strong. They were almost comparable to the humans. Han Zuetian realized this problem and hurriedly stopped them. 300 years later, an influential figure had appeared in the hidden sect Long Arm Ape. He had risen too quickly in the 100-year competition. After all, He was already Li Xian'eo's disciple, and was qualified to participate in the simulation trial. His performance had also obtained the recognition of the other disciples. Everyone became more and more familiar with him, causing him to be like a bright star in the in-name disciples' eyes. Most of the in-name disciples worshipped him. Hanju knew about this, and guessed that Li Xian'eo was supporting the long-arm ape. But he didn't take it to heart. The stronger the long-arm ape was, the stronger the hidden sect seemed. It couldn't always only have a few stronger people. Hanju even supported such actions. He hoped that the second-generation disciples could nurture admirable disciples. On this day, Hanju was about to stand up and go out to preach the Tao, when he suddenly caught an aura rapidly approaching the 100-peak immortal river. Very strong, stronger than the pseudo-sage he had encountered. He focused his gaze and saw a huge Taoist figure rising in the sky. Upon careful look, it wasn't rising, but the other party was rapidly approaching. In front of this Taoist, everything in the world seemed short. He was at least 1,000,000 feet tall, or even more. He had white hair, and wore a green Taoist robe. His eyes were sharp as if he could see through everything in the world. His gaze had already landed on the 100-peak immortal river. Hanju looked over, and felt that the other party was looking at him. Hanju immediately used the simulation trial test. 3 Pure Sacred Ancestor. Perfected Pseudo-Sage Realm. Strongest in the immortal world. Boom! The 3 Pure Sacred Ancestor struck the sky above the 100-peak immortal river. Space distorted, forming a transparent indent that was visible to the naked eye. The scene was shocking. It was as if the sky was collapsing. The ground shook and all the disciples went out. They looked up and saw the 3 Pure Sacred Ancestor looking down at the 100-peak immortal river. They were all dumbfounded and in disbelief. Who is this? I've never seen him before. Could he be a sage? Sage? Could it be Sect Master Tianju? What should we do? Don't panic, the array formation isn't broken yet. The disciples exclaimed in fear. The 3 Pure Sacred Ancestor waved his palm again, and struck the 100-peak immortal river. It was still isolated by the Tao field array formation, and did not cause any substantial damage to the Tao field. This time, the 3 Pure Sacred Ancestor frowned. What's happening? The 3 Pure Sacred Ancestor was surprised. He had used his full strength, so why couldn't he break through the formation? He took out a golden ruler from his sleeve, and struck it down like a golden river, descending from the sky. Hanju walked out of the Tao field. The divine light emitted by the sun and moon yin-yang protection covered his body. The 3 Pure Sacred Ancestor saw him immediately. His intuition told him that this person was very dangerous. Hanju directly condensed the heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial Dharma idol, and quickly grew taller, becoming as majestic as the 3 Pure Sacred Ancestor. Without another word, the heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial punched out. The terrifying aura suffocated everyone in the Tao field. It's here! Li Daokong's eyes lit up as he stared at the heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial. He had often been beaten up by the heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial in the simulation trial. He couldn't forget this terrifying Dharma idol. Under the feet of the 3 Pure Sacred Ancestor and the heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial, all living beings were as tiny as sand. Boom! The heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial's fist wind collided with the 3 Pure Sacred Ancestor, knocking him back. The golden ruler in his hand shook violently. The 3 Pure Sacred Ancestor looked terrified. What a domineering power! This was what the ancestral Magus used to be. The heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial continued to punch. The Fiend Celestial Dharma idol flew out of the Tao field and leaped. As it fell, it punched at the 3 Pure Sacred Ancestor. The terrifying wind directly collapsed the ground and mountains, and rivers shattered. The 3 Pure Sacred Ancestor raised his ruler and struck. 9 golden lotuses appeared behind him. They were dazzling like ancient divine objects that could create the world. It was addictive to look at and warranted worship. Chapter 508 Chaotic Fiend Celestial appears. Initial emergence of the immeasurable calamity. Chapter 508 Chaotic Fiend Celestial appears. Initial emergence of the immeasurable calamity. facing the terrifying heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial. The three pure sacred ancestor couldn't block it even though he had activated his mystical power. The world rumbled as the golden ruler, in the three pure sacred ancestors' hand shattered. The 9 lotus Dharma idol behind him was destroyed. The three pure sacred ancestors' expression changed drastically as he retreated again. The heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial did not continue attacking. Instead, it looked at him coldly as its figure dissipated like smoke. The sea of clouds exploded and swept away the clouds. Mountains and rivers collapsed and dust flew into the air. In this world-destroying scene, the three pure sacred ancestor stood in the world with a livid expression. His right hand trembled as the shattered golden ruler condensed again. However, he no longer attacked the 100-peak immortal river. The heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial was too powerful. It was so strong that he did not dare to act rashly anymore. Who is he? The three pure sacred ancestor thought uneasily. When did such a figure appear in the immortal world? On the other side, Hanju was also depressed. Why was this fellow like the heavenly Tao sage? He really couldn't be killed. Since he couldn't kill the guy, Hanju deliberately retreated and created an illusion of intimidation. As expected, the million living beings of the 100-peak immortal river became excited. The powerful three pure sacred ancestor was actually repelled by 2 punches. The heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial was too strong. Who was that just now? I'm not sure. Could it be the sect master? No, sect master's figure isn't like this. He should be a mighty figure of the hidden sect. Those personal disciples are indeed very strong. That's right. Previously, the first guardian swept through all the powerful enemies around the 100-peak immortal river. Even sages can't enter the 100-peak immortal river? Our hidden sect is really too strong. On the hill, the 3 immortals were extremely excited. The heavenly immortal said excitedly, "Brother, you have good judgment. Our hidden sect is definitely the strongest force in the immortal world. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks." Eaglehead Immortal was also very excited, but he still restrained himself. He snorted. When has Big Brother ever misjudged? Let's serve the hidden sect well. In the future, we might be able to reach the cultivation level of that personal disciple. Just now, almost all the in-name disciples treated heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial as Hanju's personal disciple. The personal disciples knew that it was only Hanju's Dharma idol. No one knew how many Dharma idols Hanju had. Li Daokong had encountered Hanju's 9 Dharma idols in the simulation trial. They all had mystical powers and had left a deep impression of him. In the end, the 3 pure sacred ancestor left. The hidden sect survived another crisis that was not a crisis. Hanju returned to the Taoist temple and sat on the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus. He asked in his mind, "How can I kill the 3 pure sacred ancestor? 3 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Fight outside the heavenly Tao, or cut off his heavenly Tao providence." Hanju fell into deep thought. Kidnap the 3 pure sacred ancestor and bring him out? However, if he went out, he would face the attack of the sages. As for severing the heavenly Tao's providence, Hanju didn't know such a technique for the time being. Forget it. He would keep him for now. He had to attain the Tao first. Hanju stopped thinking and continued cultivating after the 3 pure sacred ancestor attacked. The sages would probably not find trouble with him anymore. Outside the 33rd heaven Sage Tao Field, Li Muyi, South Extreme Heavenly Venerate, Sect Master Tianju, and Sage Jinan fell silent with different expressions. After a long while, Sage Jinan couldn't help but ask, "Is that a sage's Dharma idol?" The heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial was so strong that even sages were shocked. Li Muyi's eyes flickered. "It's not a sage's Dharma idol. It's more like..." The 3 sages glanced at him, waiting for him to continue. Li Muyi took a deep breath and continued. "I've heard from my master that before the creation of the world, chaotic Fiend Celestials existed. The chaotic Fiend Celestials who survived would either split the world apart or become the earliest great Tao divine spirit. The one who protected the hidden sect Might be a chaotic fiend celestial. Chaotic fiend celestial? South Extreme Heavenly Venerate asked in surprise. Why is the chaotic fiend celestial hiding in the immortal world? It's impossible that the Tao ancestor doesn't know. Could it be that a great Tao divine spirit wants to invade the immortal world? Sect Master Tianju and Sage Jinan's eyelids twitched. The higher one stood, the more they knew. They were invincible existences below the heavenly Tao. But the heavenly Tao was not the only thing in the vast chaos. There were also some ancient and mysterious great Tao divine spirits. After the previous sages transcended, they headed to the unknown dark forbidden zone, and never returned. They either went to the deity realm of the ruins of Ind, or the unknown chaotic domain. It would be troublesome if the one protecting the hidden sect was really a chaotic fiend celestial. Wait, Tao ancestor is talking about the great Tao immeasurable calamity. Could it be? Sage Jinan suddenly thought of something and said in fear. The other three sages were shocked, including Li Muyi. Li Muyi stood up and said, I have to ask the ancestor about this. The other sages also stood up. At this moment, Qiu Shilai and Emperor Xiao suddenly appeared in the hall. Emperor Zhao's expression darkened. Which one of you is being cursed? Sage Jinan said, Me. What's wrong? Are you also being cursed? Sect Master Tianju nodded. Me too. South Extreme Heavenly Venerate snorted. He was very unhappy to see Emperor Xiao and Qiu Shilai standing together. Li Muyi frowned and looked at them. It was unknown what he was thinking. Qiu Shilai snorted. Recently, the Dark Forbidden Lord has started cursing us again. We have to investigate this matter clearly. Otherwise, there will be no end of trouble. Emperor Xiao glanced at the four sages of the Tao sect and asked, What are you plotting? You'll rope in variables one moment and target them the next. What do you want? Emperor Xiao felt that the four sages of the Tao sect were very suspicious. Qiu Shilai narrowed his eyes, clearly wanting to ask the same. Seeing that he had come with ill intentions, Li Muyi said, Let's put aside the matter of the Dark Forbidden Lord for the time being. The Great Tao Calamity has just begun to show some clues. We have to visit Ancestor Shitian first. Don't change the topic. Are you really forcing me to use the Tao Destruction mystical power? Qiu Shilai was furious. In the previous calamity, the Buddhist sect had suffered heavy losses. He had been suppressing his anger. Li Muyi wasn't someone to be trifled with. He said coldly, Qiu Shilai, do you suspect that the Dark Forbidden Lord is hidden among us? How ridiculous. We are the Orthodox Tao sect. How can we use such low-level methods? For a time, the atmosphere in the hall became extremely tense. Another 300 years had passed since the three pure sacred ancestor attacked. Han Ju was still cultivating and attempting to attain the Tao. Suddenly sensing something, he probed the world of stars in the depths of his soul with his divine sense. His expression changed. The great Tao purple qi that had been placed in the world of stars had unknowingly arrived in front of the 49 fiend celestial qi. It split into many branches that connected to the fiend celestial qi. With the help of the great Tao purple qi, the speed at which the fiend celestial purple qi condensed seemed to increase. Wait, could it be that the great Tao purple qi could help him produce the chaotic fiend celestials? Hanju's heart beat faster. He was a little excited. To prevent any accidents, he placed the 6 paths insignia into the fiend celestial qi, just in case. The 6 paths insignia was created by immortal Emperor Samsara. This mystical power was already very exquisite. In addition to Hanju using it, as long as the other party's cultivation level was not higher than his, it was basically impossible to escape his control. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.